Listen to them, children of the night. What music they make.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're here.
Welcome to my nightmare.
What an excellent day for an exorcism. Kill you all!
Do you want to die tonight?
You don't know what death is.
We belong dead.
Here's Johnny!
I shot him 6 times.
On to your butt.
Scream for your life!
To a new world of pods and monsters.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Pods and Monsters. I'm here with
Inthea.
And Inthea and I have a special guest. He is joining us for his second episode. You might remember him from the Godzilla episode, and his name is...
Aidan Casserly. Hello, monster kids.
Aidan!
Hey! It's an honor to be back. We had so much fun talking about one big monster that we're going to be talking about one of the biggest of them all. So.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And who are we talking about, Inthea?
King Kong.
King Kong.
Wild, weird, wonderful. The stuff for which movies were made. Adventure, to make you wonder if it's true, while your eyes convince you that it is.
Kong, the 8th wonder of the world!
So King Kong, one of the most famous movies of all time, it is widely considered maybe the best monster movie of all time.
Is it?
Yeah, when there's lists that like AFI makes or something, the American Film Institute, of the top 100 movies of all time, King Kong is usually in it.
I would back that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say it's definitely one of the best movies ever made. It's not one that I watch over and over again very often, but I do love everything about it, though.
King Kong is a movie I have watched many, many times since I was a child. I'm very hard-pressed to think of another film I've seen more than King Kong, except for perhaps Creature from the Black Lagoon. But it's a movie that I know by heart, and it's going to be wonderful to talk about it today.
Have you seen King Kong, Anthea?
I think once before.
Did you know the story pretty well?
Well, yeah, because we've watched the Peter Jackson one, and we saw...
I'm sorry. That's a podcast for another time. I'll try not to groan at any mention of that.
Robert really likes the Peter Jackson one.
To each their own. Each their own.
I love the Peter Jackson one. It's the best movie of the last 20 years.
It's a bold statement, my friend.
Wow.
That is a hot take.
What have you been doing for 20 years?
Only watching King Kong by Peter Jackson.
What's not to like? It's wonderful. And the extended version is even better.
An extended version of any Peter Jackson movie. Well, if you have 2 weeks to kill, then yes, by all means, watch an extended version of any Peter Jackson.
Yeah, he's on his fifth run straight through, right?
Oh,
And then this past October, we took our first visit to New York City and saw the King Kong musical on Broadway.
Yes, we did.
So I had a pretty good understanding of what the basic skeletal premise of this movie would be.
All right.
The Skull Island premise of the movie. There we go.
Which is funny because they never referred to it as Skull Island.
There's a Skull Mountain in the movie.
Exactly.
The island could have been called anything. It could have been called Joe, but it's never mentioned.
It could have been called Bala.
Bala.
Friend Island.
What's the word for friend? Bala. Bala. Bala.
All right, let's get into this film.
All right, so Inthea and I rewatched it today, as a matter of fact, and I'm sure you took comprehensive notes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about my note taking, and since we just watched it, I'm like, it's the freshest in my memory.
All right, let's talk about King Kong.
So our film opens with an overture.
The overture is interesting because a lot of VHS copies back in the day didn't include it. I'd never heard the overture until they restored it for the DVD version. So
Really?
Yeah, back when I was a kid, the overture was left out because it's a long movie, and I guess, back in the videotape days, there's only so much room on this.
Oh, because there's only 90 minutes.
Yeah, and the overture is, I forget, it's
about 5 minutes.
5 minutes or so, which doesn't sound like much, but...
But yeah, when you're eating up tape, this is wonderful. I really like the overture. I like the beginning themes, which I think might be like the jungly themes for it.
Well, we might as well say the music is composed by Max Steiner,
Yes.
who is an incredible composer. Did a bunch of other things, including Casablanca. And,
the score for Kong really sets up a lot of the action and the fast-paced tone of the film, and there's a lot of moments where I heard one critic described it as almost like a Mickey Mouse score. Not that it sounds like Mickey Mouse, but in that the music complements a lot of specific actions you see on screen, the way that an animated cartoon would, where...
I would 100% agree. That is the best description of the music.
Yeah, there's a moment later in the film where a character accidentally knocks over a boulder, and the music, complements it perfectly, even down to Kong's reaction to turning over and looking at the boulder roll.
Well,
I really appreciated how the music would definitely reflect the looks in his eyes, or when he had a thought, or when his mood changed.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, and it's one of the earliest movies to use such a big score, because lots of movies at that point weren't using music so much. So King Kong really pushed film scores forward.
Absolutely.
Max Steiner, besides Casablanca, he also did Gone with the Wind. Which has another connection to King Kong later, we'll find out.
It's a hot topic.
It is a hot topic. So after a 5-minute overture...
all you see on the screen are the words overture, and then you get a sense of this, would it be like an Art Deco-y design, but it's really just like scaffolding and overhead railways. I don't know what they're called, but it just seems like it's the city. It's like weird abstracts of the city.
That's what it looked like, kind of, yeah.
And I really like that.
And that style, of course, is carried right over into the opening credits themselves.
Oh, which I would say these might be some of my favorite credits.
They're gorgeous. Very Art Deco, futuristic for the time period.
Correct.
But it was...
And I think the biggest thing that gave King Kong the influence to go with the Art Deco theme was the Empire State Building, which is the big finale, which was built in an Art Deco style. Empire State Building only opened 2 or 3 years before King Kong came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it was new at the time, and Art Deco was the big style of the time. So that's what they went with.
So this is a Radio Pictures movie?
Yeah, RKO.
And it opens with a wonderful little...
Yeah, radio tower on top of the earth.
Yes. And so we get the amazing title sequence. It's the credits, and then it shows us the list of the actors. And then the very last one, I believe, there's a wonderful title for King Kong, the Eighth Wonder of the World.
Yeah, King Kong gets a credit himself.
Yep.
Which I thought was so great. Next, we get an Arabian proverb.
And of course, this Arabian proverb is every bit as authentic as the gypsy poem in The Wolfman, where I'm sure there's an authentic tome of it out there somewhere, but no, it was all made up. It does introduce the Beauty and the Beast theme, which is going to be very, very important in this movie. And it doesn't matter whether or not this short little BS proverb is real or not, or if it's well written or not, it still carries a very important theme with it.
Yes, and it was written by Marion C. Cooper, one of the 2 directors of the movie. The proverb reads, "And the prophet said, and lo, the beast looked upon the face of beauty, and it stayed its hand from killing, and from that day it was as one dead."
This is great, and it really sets the tone and the expectation of this movie. I think it would have been interesting if this had been at the end also.
It bookends. Not to give away the ending for anybody who's never seen this movie, but
it is spoken. Yeah.
Well, instantly, for people that are rewatching it, the proverb gives you a sense of dread because you know how sad the ending is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. So we open on a harbor, and it's a harbor that's housing a ship called the Venture. So there are 2 gentlemen that are walking on this pier.
By the way, the Venture, do you remember which other movie has a Venture ship? One of your favorite movies?
one of my favorite movies with the ship. Oh, Lost World?
The Lost World, Jurassic Park. That's the ship they brought the T-Rex back on to San Diego.
How appropriate.
Mommy's very angry.
And it was obviously a nod to King Kong. Spielberg has talked about King Kong being one of his influences. In fact, every genre filmmaker, fantasy, horror, sci-fi, so many of them cite King Kong as being their biggest inspiration.
So there are two men who meet on this dock, and they are talking about Carl Denham and how he has this ship, the Venture, that has an obscenely large crew, and then he's going on this mysterious and somewhat crazy
adventure.
I wouldn't want to say adventure,
voyage,
but
yeah.
like voyage. There we go.
What's so crazy about this voyage?
And I love that, like, you get a sense that no one knows what's happening. Everyone is still somewhat like, well, it was definitely 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Well, everyone is taking Carl Denham's word for it that this is going to be something exciting, but they have no idea where they're going.
Yeah.
And, you know, the crew has already been on 2 expeditions with them. Carl Denham is a filmmaker, and he does
Jungle pictures.
Jungle pictures, you know, filming live animals. And,
and even though we don't know much about his pictures, there's enough information given that he's a successful enough director that people are willing to put a lot of faith in him. You know, he always delivers, even if he complains that the critics who see his movie say that there's no love interest.
Yeah, so in this scene, we also meet Weston, and that carries into the scene that you're talking about, where we get to find out what's going on. Denham, I'm never going to say this man's name right.
Just Denham.
Is speaking to the skipper of this ship, and they're talking about any possible slowdowns. It turns out that there's a crap ton of ammunition, specifically gas bombs, on this ship, and that if any of the marshals showed up, this would slow them down. Also, he's really being hindered by the fact that he can't keep an actress to stay on this picture. No one is willing to commit. So he's over it and decides to take it into his own hands and go into the city and go do it himself.
He's going to go find a lady.
We also meet Driscoll, Jack Driscoll, and he will be very important later on. So he can't keep an actress due to how secretive this is.
The agent who came aboard the ship basically says he's not going to get you a girl because he doesn't want to be held responsible for anything that could happen on a ship full of some of the roughest, toughest, most dangerous mugs I've ever looked at, or something like that, on a ship full of explosive ammunition going to God knows where. It's an insurance nightmare, so nobody wants to touch him.
Yep, we do find out that he has a type that he is looking for. He wants a woman that can hold her own, basically, but also, and more importantly, she needs to be real, real pretty. So he goes into the city and he goes to the Women's Home Mission in New York. He takes a look at all these ladies going into this
soup kitchen or something like that.
Nope, not to his liking. He does not like what he sees. They are ladies and they are not beautiful.
Soup tonight, coffee and sinkers in the morning.
So he leaves from there and he goes to this market stand. And while he's there, there's a young lady who attempts to steal an apple.
Now, first of all, she never even lifts the apple off of the cart.
No, that man was just having none of it.
She considers it.
Well, afterwards, but he didn't know she was considering
He's
it.
also a New Yorker.
Ha! I catch you, you stealer. Now I catch a cop. You like that, huh?
No, I didn't.
He really did. He just really leans into this poor woman who looks like she's about to pass out at any moment.
Because she hasn't eaten. Remember,
Exactly.
this is the Depression, and there's no food, no money.
Yeah.
So Denham steps in and offers to pay, and pays way more than this apple is worth, a whole $1.
A book. Scram.
And he takes this lady, he looks at her, and she is apparently drop dead beautiful in her state of almost just passing out.
Yeah.
And she has this beautiful soft lighting on her. They really spruced up that lens.
That was just a trick back in the day, but it works. That's the thing. Is they're also very careful not to reveal her full face until that specific moment too. So that way, you get the full impact of just how attractive Fay Wray was.
Yeah. He takes her to go get a proper meal.
He just grabs her and says, "Hey, taxi!"
Basically, yeah.
Hey! Taxi!
So he takes her to this meal, and after she's eaten and everything, he finds out pretty much everything he needs to know. Finds out her name and Darrow, that she did some acting, and that she has no family. So
She has an uncle somewhere.
possibly. She was even unsure about the uncle situation.
That's right.
So he offers to take her to go get some clothing and take her on this boat and help her out. She then realizes this is real weird and thinks that there's a catch. And he's like, nope, this is strictly business.
Yeah.
And makes this proposition. He's
He's
like,
strictly on the level.
Yeah, no funny business.
I'm on the level. No funny business.
What do I have to do?
Just trust me and keep your chin up.
And you believe him there, too. I mean, we were talking earlier about whether or not Denham should be seen as shifty or a villain, and I don't believe he is. Again,
I don't think so either.
I think he's just extremely committed.
Yes.
Now, he's pushy, yes. He didn't ask for Anne's permission to just grab her, throw her in a cab, and take her off there. But he does it with good intentions. You could make, arguments just saying, is he polite? No. Is he being considerate to other people? Kind of, sort of. Is he sincere about wanting her in on this? Yes, 100%. So, yeah. But I do like that aspect of Denham that you can take his character either way. You can take him as a good guy, or you could take him as the big troublemaker who brought all hell upon us later.
Agreed. He's a well-developed character.
Yeah.
Played by Robert Armstrong, by the way.
Yeah, and I really appreciate his delivery of his lines. I appreciate how transparent he is about everything. Even when he's hiding the location of the island, he's still very transparent about when he will give it to them. And once he does, he's like, here you go. And he just lays it all down.
He's a man with a plan.
Yep. So they're due to leave at 6 a.m. the next day. We cut to the next day, and there's hustle and bustle on the ship, and they are definitely leaving the harbor. Here we see our first mate, Driscoll, again, and he is ordering everyone, and our lovely Anne comes out onto deck, and he accidentally clocks her right in the face. So I guess this is their, meet cute situation.
Yeah. What's interesting about Driscoll, and a lot of people don't see this, is that Driscoll is very much an old style kind of character, very outdated by today's terms. In fact, that's why in the Peter Jackson version he was completely rewritten and to be more sensitive and whatnot. Driscoll's character, it is a little hard to get to like him because he is very manly, very stern, but at the same time he's also very repressed, as we'll see later on. It takes a lot to get him to admit any sort of emotions, especially, vulnerable kind of emotions. Yeah. But that's also what just a lot of guys were like back in those days. It's a character type you don't see much anymore because we've gotten more progressive, quote unquote, with the times, But
in terms of other love interest characters that we've been seeing in movies around this time, horror movies specifically, he has a lot more development and more to do than lots of the other guys.
He does, and I appreciate it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
He actually cares for her, and there's nothing wrong with showing that you are protective of someone.
So this scene where they're talking about how it's not good to have a woman on board.
I think this is awfully exciting. I've never been on a ship before.
Well, I've never been on one with a woman before.
I guess you don't think much of women on ships, do you?
No, they're a nuisance.
Yeah.
This scene was a nice little Easter egg in the Peter Jackson King Kong, because in that movie, Carl Denham is filming a scene with Ann Darrow and Bruce Baxter, the actor they brought on the ship too, because they brought an actor in that one. And the dialogue is this dialogue from the original King Kong.
I think this is awfully exciting. I've never been on a ship before.
I've never been on one with a woman before.
I guess you don't think much of women on ships, do you?
No, they're a nuisance.
Oh. So, yeah, he ends up telling her that he's never been on a ship with a woman and that women get in the way, and tells her to stay out of the way.
Again, dialogue you can't do anymore.
No.
And yeah, for good reason too. Times have changed. In fact, there's other kinds of dialogue we'll be hearing later on that from modern eyes feels very outdated and even offensive.
Yes.
But it was also just it was a sign of the times, and that's just what a lot of guys were like back then, especially in I wouldn't imagine sailors were very polite or very super sweet and friendly to each other there.
So the next scene that we see Anne is talking to Charlie, I believe, who is peeling potatoes.
Charlie the cook.
He's a friend for Anne.
Yeah, someone to talk to, absolutely.
Yeah. And I appreciate that about him.
Minor bit of foreshadowing, or a minor bit of joke with Charlie's friend, the monkey.
Oh, yes.
Remember what his name is?
No.
Iggy.
Oh, Oh, she said it later on, and she's like, I'm the only person that Iggy likes. And I was like, who's Iggy? She said this like 2 minutes after we meet him, too. So, yeah. So Jack shows up, and they end up having a little bit of a talk. And he talks about how he wouldn't have brought her on this ship. And at that point, she's still thinking that he's talking about at the beginning when he was like, women get in the way. But this next time that he says it, it's because he doesn't know where they're going. He doesn't know what's happening. And he thinks it's too dangerous for really anyone to be involved, let alone a woman who, I mean, might be somewhat defenseless.
Yeah, and again, Jack is a very tough nut to crack. It's extremely difficult for someone of his type to say, I love you, or please be careful, I don't want anything bad to happen to you, because he's used to being around other sailors, and of course they all have very tough skins, and they wouldn't admit that sort of thing. So,
And he throws in a little sly line that women can't help but be a bother.
You're all right, but women just can't help being a bother.
But notice how insecure he says that line. Women can't help being a bother. He just kind of fumbles with it. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it does show another kind of layer to him if it was intentional.
I do like that every time we see them talk, he's less of an asshole than he is in the very first scene where he clocks her in the face.
Well, it's kind of hard. Yeah, that's kind of a rough way to start with with them.
But I appreciate that because you get a sense of their time together and how comfortable he's becoming with her. Denham notices that Anne and Jack are flirty and comments to Jack that he shouldn't be distracted by this woman, shouldn't fall in love, that this is
also where Denham first mentions specifically the Beauty and the Beast theme. And it's done in sort of a joke. In fact, I love his line later on where he says, I'm going right into a theme song here. It still gets a laugh out of me because he's just kind of It's almost like a fourth wall breaking joke because they're going to be mentioning Beauty and the Beast so many times over this movie.
No, you're a pretty tough guy. But if Beauty gets you, I'm going right into a theme song here.
It's a great conversation that they have, and they really do hammer in that Beauty and the Beast thing. Finally, they get to a certain location. There was a specific latitude and longitude position that once they got there, Denham was going to provide the skipper and Jack with the final coordinates where to go from here. So they go into this navigation room. I don't know. I'm not a shipper, so I don't know what anything is. And he lays down this map that was given to him. And he has a drawing of the island and the coordinates of it. The skipper's like, I know this area, and this does not exist here. And he's like, it does. And he says, you just got to keep sailing this way, and we'll get to there. And there's a little drawing of the island, and the island has a little peninsula, and that's where they need to land. And that peninsula is cut off by a giant wall that's been there for a very, 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 very long time.
A wall?
People are unsure of what is on the other side of the wall, and he does make a mention that whatever is beyond that wall is something that I believe he says, white man has seen.
Right.
He also points out that there is like this reef that separates the ocean from the island.
They theorize about what could be on the other side. Why is there a wall, and what is the wall for? Captain Inglehorn theorizes that it's a hostile tribe, that it's maybe just people going to war against each other. There's a really nice moment here when we get the first mention of Kong.
Did you ever hear of Kong?
It carries a lot of weight to it, just the silence that follows.
And it's such a good build-up.
It is.
To what you might be seeing later.
Yeah. It's a very good introduction and a very good way to build up the menace before we ever actually see it.
And he also points out that this is the reason that he brought these gas bombs.
And there's a sly smirk to his face when he says that line, almost like he's looking for trouble.
So, yeah, Dunham and Anne are going to run some screen tests on the ship. Just to see what she looks like in the light.
Yeah. The scene is important because, again, there's a lot of important foreshadowing that goes there.
It's so good.
The first tip-off is an anecdote about Carl Denham saying, she asks, why does he run the camera himself? And he says, I used to have a cameraman who did it. If he would have gotten a swell shot of a charging rhino, but he didn't trust me to get the rhino before the rhino got him. This is important because it shows just how committed Denham is, and it also shows how he is unintentionally not looking out for the safety of other people. people.
Yeah.
Now, this is sort of shrugged off where Driscoll says, you think he's crazy, Skipper? And Englehorn just kind of shrugs it off and says, no, I'm just enthusiastic. The big foreshadow in the scene, though, is when he gives Anne instructions to start gazing upward. Again, it could almost be kind of a throwback to him not telling the crew where they're going.
Yep.
His directions to her are to just start looking upward, but I'm not going to tell you what you're going to see just yet. She follows his instructions, and he tells her, you see something terrible above you. And when you're building up to it, this moment just builds and builds and builds till he gets to the line where he tells her,
Scream, Anne! Scream for your life!
and she belts out the scream that made Fay Wray famous, and it's really chilling. It's followed by that beat of silence where Driscoll genuinely looks concerned when he grabs Englehorn's arm and he says,
What's he think she's really gonna see?
This is like a huge red flag for Jack.
And like Anthea, you were saying, it's just how much concern that Driscoll has that he doesn't want to admit. He's genuinely scared right now. He suddenly realizes just either how much he loves her or how much he's afraid that she could get hurt by someone who is willing to possibly let a cameraman get killed by a rhino.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great scene. It's a classic scene. It's always in highlight reels that I see. And again, for Peter Jackson's King Kong, they reenact this. Not in the movie, but in the trailer. It was a deleted scene. And then, King Kong roars after she screams for her life.
Scream, Ann! Scream for your life!
There is that great shot of the three sailors that are holding onto each other that look over. Apparently, they were added as a cutaway because while the screen test was going on, Robert Armstrong, who plays Carl Denham, was supposed to change camera lenses, and because he wasn't a real camera guy, he had trouble always doing the lens. So the directors decided, we'll just cut away and then go back to them later.
Oh, nice. So her scream, this movie...
The perfect scream. The first scream queen.
This movie, in general, has a lot of real, horrific, pained, good screams.
Oh,
it does.
Oh, my
like,
goodness.
From just about everyone.
Some of the sailor screams were so good, in fact, they would be sampled for other movies. In fact, you can hear them in all sorts of other films, too. And you're like, wait a minute, that's from King Kong.
Really? Now I'm going to have to really pay attention when we watch movies, because they're really good screams.
Yeah, they didn't become as famous as, like, Wilhelm screams, but they still get recycled quite a bit in movies of this era.
Nice. Yeah. So, the ship is sailing through some rather thick fog right now, as they're looking for this island.
And I love the music here so much.
Yeah, we've been without music for a while for some reason. Some parts that is definitely to the advantage, like the last scene especially wouldn't have had quite the chilling effect if there had been music. But now we do get the theme of going through the fog, and it's very, again, there's also a lot of dread building up here too, but just in a different kind of way.
Yeah, they're trying to see through it, and Anne makes a comment regarding what they're looking for.
If only Charlie made his soup as thick as that fog.
Someone does say that. So he's just got potatoes to work with, but those are pretty starchy, so there's, I guess. So, Denham ends up
Denham, Batman. Okay.
Denham points out that they are looking for a skull mountain, that is what they will see. But what they end up hearing are drums. It's very, very ominous.
Yeah.
So they finally spot the beach, and they can't see anyone on the beach. Denham really assumes that there'd be just people there pretty much casually waiting for them, or just on...
The fade into the scene is really good, too, because the reveal of Skull Mountain itself is really cool. I mean, there's a reason why people for so long mistaken the name of the island for Skull Island. It's because it's such a good visual that it's just... it's easy to see why it would dominate a lot of people's thoughts of the place.
Yeah, and everything that appeared on his funny little map was there on the island.
There it is. Skull Mountain, the wall, everything just like on my funny little map.
Everyone gears up to go onto the island, and Anne wants to go. Jack thinks that she shouldn't go until they check it out first, but Denham is like, she's coming with us. Yeah. And overrides everything.
He's just really, really eager to the point where he's not even going to send out a scouting troop first or check and see if it's safe.
He brings her wardrobe and everything, just in case there's something to shoot.
Yeah, the camera, of course.
So they arrive at the village, and no one is around. They talk about the giant wall, which we just kind of see out there.
Yep, with a big gong at the top of it.
Yes. Then we hear the little kind of far away Kong chanting, which becomes a little bit more clear. So they get closer and they see a ceremony at the base of the giant gate.
Again, the music build-up here is great. It's just, at first you're not really sure what's going on, if this is part of the soundtrack, but of course, as we're going to see, this is actually happening. They peer through the bushes, and that big reveal when Max Steiner's score just like hits you with the whole ceremony going on. It really, you feel it.
The ceremony has dancers that are dressed as gorillas.
The gorilla dance, that was like the funniest thing when I was a kid. I mean, they totally steal your attention away. There's guys in gorilla suits kind of shuffling around in a circle, and whether or not you think that's funny or cool or whatever, it's a good visual.
No, that is. There is a very beautiful woman who's being adorned with flowers in her hair. Yep. She is darker. She is, and everyone on this island is not white. So there is this beautiful woman who's being adorned.
Exactly.
And they say that she is going to be Kong's bride. The reason I bring this up, I really do feel like there's important themes and elements to this movie that seeing it at a much later time in your life, you become a little bit more aware of. Because I'm not trying to bring that into the conversation, but it might filter in because it's my impression of it.
That's fine.
In no way, though, made me not. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's just important stuff. I was a little bothered. I'm a little bothered.
Yeah.
So you were
by the fact that there's this very beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's set in the movie. Like, we understand, fine. Here's like they called her like the golden haired one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Onomapokeno.
But it's the idea at the time that...
So this is a very tricky topic, and I'm sure as you guys remember our Godzilla podcast, where it's easy to factor in history and world relations because they do have an effect on the movie, but we also have to be careful that the further we stray off into that direction, the more we forget about the film itself.
For sure.
Now, these are definitely important things to talk about. These are good things to know, especially through modern eyes looking back then. Could these things be taken as offensive? Yes, depending on people who you're talking to. Was this movie made with offensive intentions? And I don't believe so. There are some films from this era where you can't separate it from the tones they're presenting. You can't talk about Birth of a Nation without talking about the severely racist tones of that film.
Yeah.
With Kong, it's a little different. It's hard to say because, again, product of its times, that doesn't excuse anything. But also a lot of this is based on just the experiences of Marion C. Cooper and just for encountering indigenous cultures that you weren't familiar with. Some of them were hostile, some of them weren't.
Yeah.
And I think they do a good job of playing up the point that it's just that Anne is different.
This is also a good time I want to talk about. The chieftain is played by Noble Johnson. And
remember what he's from?
He was from The Mummy.
That's right.
Noble Johnson is, first of all, addressing racial tones. This is an interesting note about Noble Johnson. I believe Noble Johnson was the first black actor in Hollywood to do whiteface. Noble Johnson appeared in whiteface in Murders of the Rue Morgue and The Most Dangerous Game.
Really?
And, and you would never tell just because either the makeup was good or his performance was that good.
Well, Inthea thought he was white in The Mummy.
I did.
In blackface.
I did.
Yeah. But Noble Johnson does a really good job in this movie, and I'm sure there are people who would be offended by, the fact that there's a big scary black man here threatening the white people or whatever. But the fact is, he's played with a lot of dignity. It would have been so easy to have had the savages just like swoop right in upon them and hoot and holler or whatever, but they actually, to their credit, their first reaction when they see the intruders is, first of all, they're like, who are they? They just kind of stop in their tracks. When the chieftain slowly comes walking down, there's nice music that goes with it. And there's also a nice little touch there where the crowd parts in front of him, but a child is left standing there, and the child's mom runs and pulls him out of the way just as the chieftain is approaching.
Which is mimicked later.
Yeah, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but if it was, it's a really good way of just showing the power that this chief has and just how much the people fear and respect him.
I will say, I do appreciate that they were not used as comic relief.
Yeah.
They weren't, at least not intentionally.
They don't really show much of a threat besides taking Anne. Like, they don't attack them. They don't kill anyone.
They're imposing, but at the same time, they also do have... it's implied that they have some sort of social structure to them too. That's the thing is, the fact that our heroes walk away from, literally just calmly walk away from what could have been a dangerous encounter, and they just let them go is interesting too.
Yeah. So there's this woman who's being adorned. They refer to her as Kong's bride. And Dunham decides to record this. He decides he needs to get it. And as soon as he does...
He's so anxious to capture this on film. And you can't blame him. It's a hell of a sight, too.
Yeah. He immediately stops and everyone is just staring at him.
And he shouts, Costco!
Costco! Costco!
Meaning I guess he really wanted to go get a $1 hot dog and soda.
With his bala.
With his bala.
Bala. Bala.
There is a line where he says something that to me, for all the world, sounds like he's saying cow pizza for Kong.
Cow pizza for Kong!
So he encourages the entire crew to reveal themselves from behind this giant bush area. The skipper, as you guys have pointed out, knows rudimentary language of the area, kind of, and is able to communicate.
That's Captain Englehorn.
So they're able to communicate well enough, and he asks about the ceremony.
The chieftain's first reaction is just telling them, get out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The witch doctor shows up and pretty much tells him that the ceremony is spoiled because these people have seen it.
I never quite understood that, if they were saying that Kong would be offended by that, or, okay, we gotta go back to step one. Okay, people, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ramakana, Kong, Kong! I never quite understood how the ceremony was spoiled, but then again, this is also a culture we're not familiar with, and probably a religion we're not familiar with either, that has its own customs that...
Well, I wondered also later when they do capture Anne and they run up and try to save her, is that witch doctor standing there going, oh, they saw it, we were so close.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's just like throwing up his hands. He's like, damn it, guys.
Oh, this is gonna show up in my performance reviews.
Just one time. So the chief from here makes an immediate demand for Anne, who he refers to.
Not a demand. He bargains for her.
He wants to trade for her. He wants to trade 6 of their women for her.
Again, they could have just taken them by force. They were outnumbered. They don't know what a gun is, so they wouldn't know the effects of that. But the fact is, he immediately starts doing business. And that's kind of interesting, too, because, I mean, who would this tribe have ever done business with? How did they barter? Did they get a lot of visitors?
I mean, they have boats. They must go somewhere.
They must have come from somewhere, and it's an interesting mystery about where they came from, but that's a story for another time that never gets told, but that's fine. It doesn't need to be.
Jack at this point wants to take her back, and the whole crew's like, we're going back. Dunham, though, at this point does insist that they will be back the next day. And
to try again.
Yes, to try again.
And don't forget, he asks Englehorn, what's the word for friend?
Oh.
Bala! Bala!
Yeah, and he makes it whole demand.
Bala! Bala!
I do like this about Dunham, because everyone's like, okay, we're leaving now, but he's like...
He's persistent. No matter how much logic is hitting him in the face, he's certain that he can spin this around and make it work for him, because he's probably a guy who's made his whole career by, challenging the impossible and facing down charging rhinos when they should have trampled them.
And he's trying to diffuse the situation for sure with putting his hands in his pockets and whistling casually as they're walking away.
I love when he does that. He tilts his hat forward.
It still ends on an ominous note too, where you get the feeling that they're not fooling anyone with their casual walking away, and that this is only going to be the beginning of trouble.
So that evening, Anne can't sleep, and apparently really no one can. And Jack is concerned about what Dunham will ask of her the next day. And here we get a very lovely reveal that actually made me laugh because, again, there's no real concept of time. But in thinking about it now that we're done with, you can see how it starts to kind of unravel. So Jack reveals that he is in love with her.
Say, I guess I love you.
His big reveal, a lot of people laugh at now just by how awkwardly it phrased. He just says, well, I guess I love you. Yeah. But you keep in mind, everything we've been talking about, Jack, is that this is a guy who has a very hard time admitting a soft spot to him. So, of course, when he finally reveals himself, I'm actually surprised he didn't stutter more or just throw up on the spot or something like that.
Well, there's a little bit of build-up there, though, when he talks about how he's scared for her.
And sort of scared of you.
I do really like that.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's
it's
true.
So good.
For someone that is so rugged and not willing to show his feelings,
closed off.
that's a big step for him.
Oh, yeah,
to
for
not
sure.
say that he's scared of.
Yeah, saying he's scared of someone he loves. That's a massive reveal.
I actually really like this entire scene, and I think it brings it a little bit of levity to everything, because she says that she loves him, and they kiss.
Well, but before that, there's an impish quality to Anne there that I like, where she throws his words back in his face that he said earlier about saying, well, then you wouldn't be bothered by me. If I was gone, you wouldn't be bothered by not having me around. And that's kind of a bratty thing, too, whether or not she really meant it, but it shows you an aspect of Anne that I like, is that she's got a spark in her.
I love it. And then they kiss, the skipper calls for them, and this might be my favorite.
Mr. Driscoll, are you on deck?
Yes, sir.
It's done so well. I loved it so much. So the skipper interrupts their, as I said, their kissy time, and calls Jack inside. So Jack leaves.
And then we cut immediately to
the Islanders showing up.
And it's the music again there is perfect, because this is a shot that's done almost entirely in shadows. It is pitch black.
And they shot from above of the canoe around.
Yes, and the canoe slowly coming into shot, and the music kind of tells you a little bit in advance that something is coming, and it's a really eerie moment, but it's very well done.
It's done very well.
Cynthia audibly said, "Uh-oh."
So they sneaky kidnap Anne, and they take off.
But not before she struggles with one of them and knocks
off this big candy bracelet.
Yes. Puka shells.
For some reason, I always imagined they were little tiny skulls.
There you go, like extreme shrunken heads. There we go.
So
they're Iggy skulls.
While the gentleman,
what happens to Iggy?
What happens to Iggy?
He didn't go. It would have been great if he had gone charging on the island with them with his own teeny tiny little gun, going.
Oh, that would have been great.
He's friends with Charlie, and Charlie wasn't allowed to go with them.
Yeah, there you go.
That kind of upset me. I do appreciate Charlie, because he's like, I'm going to
I know. I love that Charlie shows up with a cleaver.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to go get Anne back.
He's ready to fight, too. And Charlie really takes a lot of the show. And again, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, that's really why it was wonderful when he comes back. And not in this film, but in the film that follows.
So as the men are talking in this cabin, Denham looks out of the window and notices that all the torches are on at the island, and expresses that he wants to go over to there and would love to just be filming all of this. So Jack goes to look for Anne on the ship, and Charlie finds this necklace and alerts the entire crew by screaming, all hands
on deck! All men on deck! Everybody on deck! All men on deck!
And everyone comes running, and everyone is searching for Anne on the ship.
Yeah.
They don't find her, so the crew loads up. They take guns and bombs, and they go over to the island. Back on the island, there's a ceremony underway. Anne is now taking the place of the bride. They go ahead and they open up these gates.
Which, by the way, when they're building the gates, why did they build a door so big if they don't want Kong to ever go through?
Maybe it was built by another monster.
Maybe.
Who wanted Kong to stay on his side,
and
then he stayed on his other side, and then his side of the island sank.
Yeah, you figure they'd build like a human-sized door so they could just go through.
Yeah.
But
again, that's the mystery of it.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
What do they got in there? King Kong?
What do they got in there? King Kong?
And it's just those two giant doors. There's no reason. There's no like fence on either side of those doors. So they open up the gate and they tie her up to this little like podium kind of like thing.
Yeah.
And then they hit this gong, which summons King Kong.
This is something I've always wondered. The chief is standing right in front of this gong. They hit the gong, and I can only imagine, he must have had some serious earplugs underneath his hair, because standing in front of that gong when it's going off, man, you would think he would shake so hard he'd fall right off the wall.
So you hear King Kong approaching.
This is the big reveal, and this scene, it still holds a lot of punch, but imagine what it would have been like for audiences back in 33 to have seen this moment just build and build and build until you see this figure.
And she's just screaming and starts
not even before she's screaming too. There's just a moment where she doesn't know what to make of it, because we get the first reveal of both the stop motion animated Kong and also the big puppet head. The head doesn't match the model 100%, but it's still a very memorable visual because you get the scale of this thing. This thing must have been gigantic, and it feels gigantic on film too.
I wish it was able to display more emotion.
Yeah.
It always had that grin,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
How big was it?
The Kong head?
Yeah.
I think life-size. You see people in there later on shoved inside Kong's mouth, so this thing was probably pretty damn big.
There were 3 people inside of it to run the mechanisms.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we get this amazing close-up, and I put down so good. And it's just such a great intro to him. I will say that because his eyes are so bright and open, and his face looks like he has this grin, it seems like he's immediately pleased by looking at her.
I mean, that first shot I was mentioning of the big head that slowly tracks in, that's really good. I think the second time we see it, the head just kind of sways back and forth to the side, and there's something unintentionally comic about that. I doubt that was intentional, but again, he's got the big smile on his face. You can almost picture him thinking, hey, all right.
Yeah, like, you're different. What's up with this?
Gentle monkeys prefer blondes.
Kong, when he takes Anne, he does it in an almost playful fashion where he it's his little toy. He undoes one little side.
Yeah, there's a nice touch where Kong is about to start roaring, but he stops when he turns and looks at her. Now, Willis O'Brien was a very good actor through his models, and there's just a lot of nice touches he gives Kong, and something as small as that, which almost seems like a mistake, where Kong is starting to go through the motions of roaring, and instead he just stops in his tracks. He's like, oh, okay, this is better than me making a fuss. And he very gingerly turns the wheels to let her loose.
Mm-hmm. It's so great. And so he picks her up, goes back to the jungle. And yes, Jack and the crew show up just like a couple seconds too late. And
Not before Jack gets a good glimpse of Kong, though.
Yeah.
Yes. They open the gate and they go inside the jungle after Kong. They follow a trail here, and I really like this. It's giant footprints for Kong.
Yeah.
So from here, I really like how this is done. We get finally some more interaction between this wonderful stop motion animation and real life actors.
The Skull Island journey was my very favorite part about this movie growing up, and it just completely captures the imagination. There is no dead time. There is nothing wasted. Even just like that opening part where nothing is necessarily happening. They're tracking through the jungle, but they make the most of that time to show that, showing that footprint, showing that, they're trying to keep a brave attitude, but still they're way in over their heads.
And the first animal that they encounter is a Stegosaurus.
Stegosaurus.
And this is really well done because the Stegosaurus enters the frame from a very, very far away distance, and that's a nice touch too, especially, again, going back to the music, which introduces it very well. I love this part a lot just because the Stegosaurus is so far off in the distance that you're not quite sure what's going to happen, what it's going to do, if it's going to get any closer, and of course it gives a sense of how big this thing is. The Stegosaurus is a lot larger than a natural Stegosaurus would have been. This thing is almost kaiju proportions. But the build up to it too is just very well done. There's a lot of tension as the thing unintentionally comes closer and closer to our crew, and they're not quite sure. They get their guns ready, they get their gas bombs ready, but this is obviously something bigger than they've ever handled before. The Stegosaurus is triggered to their presence, does not like the intruders, and goes right after them.
Yep.
And this is a very common mistake people make about animals, is assuming that just because an animal is herbivorous, that it's peaceful and safe to be around. And that is a great big no-no.
No, I mean, this animal has armor and spikes on the back of it.
And it's big.
Yes.
Big. Yeah. Do not go. Elephants, rhinoceri, and hippopotami are extremely dangerous.
With the Stegosaurus scene, it is so great that it does start so far away because it really sells the idea of depth.
Yes.
In these scenes. And, these sets, these scenes built on these tables to do this stop motion, they were built in levels. It was the way that they did the King Kong effects. It was very close to how Walt Disney did the multiplane camera effects.
Really,
with plates of glass and projections and painting.
The trees painted on the glass is a beautiful effect, and it works perfectly because you wouldn't even realize you're looking at a two-dimensional forest up there.
Exactly, and the fact that they're always sort of foggy, like the further you go, just like the way real fog
Atmospheric
works.
perspective.
It
yeah,
is.
absolutely.
It's incredible. It's maybe the best backgrounds of that era, at least.
It works so well, and you realize that entire scene is almost more or less done in one shot.
And then it's great how the technologies that they used all blend together. More so the later you go on, they got more confident in what they were doing.
Yeah. So yeah, they shoot at it, throw a bomb at it, and
there's a nice fake out with
it.
there's a nice fake out with the Stegosaurus where you think it's defeated, and then they push their luck and they shoot it again, and it gets right back up.
Yeah, it pops right back up.
It's a nice fake out.
Yeah.
And then another fake out when the head pops up, and then they shoot him in the head. And then you see his little arm.
That always, I hated when I was a kid. Shooting the Stegosaurus right in the eye got to me. Not only because it's gory, but it's also, again, the music. There's a nice touch where the music shows sympathy.
Yeah.
For when that wasn't intended, because obviously these guys do not care. They're actually happy that this thing is dead instead of trampling all over them. But there's that nice little note of after it takes the shot in the
was
eye.
just living
you
its
really
life.
feel bad for him.
And his little leg goes shaking in the air, and I did not like
And
that
then
at all.
And then the wagging tail.
The death rattle is a nice touch.
That's probably my favorite animation in the whole movie.
Yeah,
I love it.
and the music with that vroom, vroom, the little twitching at the end of it too. This is a nice tracking shot too as they walk by, and it's not a really fascinating conversation too, but it gives you the idea of just how big this thing was.
Yes.
I think an actual Stegosaurus was something like 20 feet long.
And this is a fake tracking shot where they had a camera film the model as it was going and seeing the stop motion, and then they had that projecting in the background, and then our actors are on a treadmill pretending to walk.
And there's even some stuff in the foreground that they kind of push by them too, just to give that impression of space. And it's great.
It.
Yeah, it's a
so
really
much.
well done moment. So our poor buddy, the Stegosaurus, goes down, but he will be avenged. He will be avenged by a neighbor.
Yeah. So they keep walking and they hear grunts, but they can't see through the fog. And from here, they stumble upon a swamp and very, very quickly make a raft. A very impressive giant raft for these, 10 dudes?
There was a dissolve.
There's a
though.
dissolve, yeah.
I know.
However much time they spent, who knows? Maybe there's an outtakes where they actually took like days to make this.
They did say that Kong is probably miles away now because it took them a while.
That is a nice touch.
So they end up sailing this foggy river here. And some sort of sauropod, is it what? Was it?
You can call it a brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus, okay.
Yeah. This part of the film is so good because we saw them take down the Stegosaurus, so you more or less have enough confidence with these guys that they're going to be fine. And the brontosaurus royally kicks every square inch of their asses. This thing does not like intruders. It does not like things that it's not familiar with, and it resolves its problems not in a friendly way by smashy, you go dead now.
Except this brontosaurus does have carnivorous teeth.
Well, here's the thing: is a lot of people will say, "Why did the brontosaurus eat people?" It does not.
Well, he doesn't eat people.
Yeah,
he doesn't eat anyone. But
hippos will bite.
But he doesn't have the flat teeth, though.
He has the peg-like teeth, and a brontosaurus's teeth were designed to strip leaves off of branches. So an actual one's probably wouldn't be very useful for grasping or clenching down on anything. But again, they're taking some liberties here.
Yeah.
I had mentioned that the Stegosaurus was a lot larger than a natural one would be, and I think this brontosaurus also has a lot of qualities you wouldn't find in an actual sauropod.
Yeah.
So we have the attack on the water here, and there's some unintentionally funny moments where it flings the people in the air, almost like...
Well, before we get to that, let's talk about the way it emerges from the water.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's
really
beautiful.
Yeah. Again, introducing the creature from a distance instead of just having it just suddenly pop into frame is...
Yeah, you just see
and it's rising up.
The build-up.
A foggy scene with a lazy river, then all of a sudden something emerges, rises up from the water, and Cynthia made a comment saying, this is like Alien.
Yes, it reminded me of when you look at a xenomorph dead on. It's just this oblong, ominous shape, and it was rising up, and I was like, oh, this is very xenomorphic. So it gets closer and gets very aggressive. They immediately start trying to kill it, and which is not going to work, thankfully, this time. He tips over the raft, which was very satisfying for me to watch. And then I said, straight up kills the crew. Chomp, chomp. Because he just starts picking them out of the water and is like breaking bones, throwing them, grabbing the next one, breaking bones, throwing them.
Toss them around. we dissolve to the next scene, and you almost think that they're out of the woods, and it's like, nope. At some point, our crew must have reached the shore, and even then, they're not safe, because we dissolve immediately to the chase going on.
Yes.
And the Brontosaurus is not giving up on this.
And there's one lone guy who is not keeping up with everyone else.
Yeah.
For some reason, he climbs a tree.
Yeah, that's just got to be a moment of stupid panic, because he climbs up to just the perfect level for this Brontosaurus to get a good look at him and just say, "I don't like you."
Yeah.
But it's a very tense moment. I guess that's the reason why you don't need to worry so much about why this guy did it as the really amazing shot that follows, because that's a hair-raising close-up there of this guy.
Yeah, well, you get those great close-ups of the Brontosaurus, and he's doing that same sort of snarling that Willis O'Brien did with the Brontosaurus in Lost World.
Yeah, the curl of the lip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, the Lost World had a scene between a Brontosaurus and an Allosaur confronting each other. Yeah, the Brontosaurus does curl its lip upwards, which I don't think a real Brontosaurus could do, but it's such a
big
nice
Elvis fan.
It's such a nice touch that, why not?
But then, when the Brontosaurus does get this fella, that's my favorite scream in the movie.
So, Husky the dimwit sailor is defeated by the Brontosaurus, who puts him gently on the ground. He does not start eating him. He probably mounted him, kept him for his collection of idiots he's killed. However, our heroes don't realize that the chase is over with them and the Brontosaurus. They're continuing on because by this point, they've got good reason to believe that everything on this island is going to kill them. So they go rushing through, and this is where we finally catch up to our friend Kong.
In the meantime, Kong has heard them and realizes he is holding on to Anne, and he looks back at them, looks at her, and realizes, you can tell at that point, he's like, well, they're chasing me because they're trying to get her back.
Kong crosses a giant chasm on a very ominous log.
Yes, and Denham gets held back. He ends up getting caught on a tree, so he gets held back. Driscoll, when they get to this log, he ends up climbing down the side of the little cliff area.
By this point, Kong has put Anne safely, or so he believes, in a tree, and he's doubled back.
Yes.
The crew is not expecting Kong to suddenly be coming at them. And this is a good moment for me to talk about our first cutscene.
Well, the big question is, we have our crew on this log, and Kong appears, and he starts turning the log, trying to get the crew off. Yeah. And everyone asks, why don't the crew run back where they came and get off this log? Why don't they run back?
Now, your initial reaction could be just that they didn't have their footing. Something that was cut out of this moment was they were being chased by yet another creature. Now, in the earlier drafts, they encounter another beast that's called an Arsinotherium. An Arsinotherium is a large prehistoric mammal that mostly resembles a rhinoceros, but it's got these two gigantic parallel horns on its head that are massive for its proportions. This thing was a very intimidating looking animal, and if you saw it, you would probably want to get away from it as quickly as possible. The Arsinotherium would have chased them to one side of the chasm, and they would have been trapped between them and Kong. At some point, the Arsinotherium was swapped out for another creature, which was, I believe, a Triceratops, before it was swapped out for a Styracosaurus, which is a relative of a Triceratops. It's got spikes around its frill and one horn, before it was cut out entirely. I kind of get the feeling the reason it was cut out entirely is for story purposes, because you would have wondered, why didn't this thing get Denham? Because Denham has to be held back. I also think it might have been a case of just pacing, maybe even a bit of overkill. This moment was recreated by the Weta Workshop, who did the special effects for the new King Kong, and when Kong finally came on DVD, there was a bonus moment where they did basically a reenactment with stop motion, and you get to see Kong and the Styracosaurus trapping the two people, and I think one of the main reasons, again, why it was cut off was it takes too much attention away from Kong. You're almost left wondering, why are Kong and this Styracosaurus working together? It's like, is that like his pet or something like that?
Well, there were lots of cuts made throughout the movie. I think a lot of it was for time.
Yeah, and pacing.
So Driscoll climbs down the side of the little embankment and gets into like a little cave.
Yeah.
And he's directly under King Kong. These guys are on this log, and King Kong is able to shake them off, and they fall down into this little ravine and die.
This massive, creepy looking canyon.
And each one has a great scream also.
And you hear every single one of them fall.
And yeah, it's so scary. And the bodies, these were little figures that they dropped into this chasm, and they weighted each one so they would have more of a natural fall.
They did great.
They don't look like action figures being thrown down there.
They look good.
You feel the weight, and especially the way their screams stop the moment they hit the ground is also a nice touch.
But that chasm that they go into was a deleted scene, probably the most famous deleted scene of all time, but that's the spider pit sequence.
Yeah.
There was always rumors that there was this deleted scene where they would survive the fall and all these giant spiders and like a giant crab or something would come out.
There is concept art that was done by Byron Crabbe that shows that there was a whole menagerie of creatures down here. There were giant spiders, giant lizards, a tentacled creature that could have been some kind of mollusk or maybe even a carnivorous plant. Who knows what it is? There are crustaceans and crabs. I mean, this drawing looks a lot like Gustave Doré's work for like Dante's Inferno, because it's a scene of like prehistoric hell.
Wow.
And this scene was shot. It was animated. It was shot. I'm sure if you believe someone like Forey Ackerman, who probably claimed to have seen everything, I'm sure he claimed to have seen it.
I saw that at an early screening in 1933, but it was mentioned in early issues of Famous Monsters, and Forrest Ackerman, being the collector that he was, did find a photo of one of the spiders from the spider pit sequence and published it, and that just added more awareness to what this is and what people missed out on, this incredible scene. And everyone wanted to see the scene, and people are hoping that it will one day show up. It never showed up. No one's ever been able to find it. Peter Jackson makes the 2005 version, and he says, I want to have my spider pit sequence. His was more of a slug sequence, you know. And he was worried that they were going to cut that scene out of the movie because it's not really needed, but it's just a fun sequence. So he wrote in the script of his movie that Carl Denham's camera gets destroyed in that sequence. There has to be something big that happens to keep the scene in the movie. So he was able to keep his scene. And then, as Aidan was saying, with creating the Strachosaurus, when the Strachosaurus was chasing them, Peter Jackson recreated it for the DVD. It also included the spider pit sequence.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. It's also interesting that the DVD doesn't allow you the option to have the scene inserted in the movie. But, you know, it's its own thing.
That's probably a choice of Peter Jackson's. I don't think he wants to change the movie.
The spider pit sequence allegedly was cut out just because pacing reasons, and I think also Cooper was concerned that it took too much attention off of Kong. When for the sense of pacing, we still have to deal with Driscoll hiding in the chasm, and that needs to be dealt with. We still need to get back to Anne, and instead we're having this long, but still doubtlessly amazing sequence that unfortunately just gets cut. I do have a copy of this footage along with London After Midnight. If you mail me a blank check, I'll see if I can get around to sending you one on DVD.
But, you know, they did film all this, and then a dinosaur comes up to get Jack Driscoll.
Yeah, this two-legged lizard-like creature is the only survivor of this sequence, and that's why when he appears in the final cut movie, even though the entire spider pit sequence was cut, this one last survivor still appears, and this
one last survivor, rumor is he only has 2 legs, which wouldn't be that natural, but he has 2 legs because it would just be easier to animate.
Yeah. You could almost say he sets up the skull crawlers in Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that was intentional, maybe not. It's also a little theory. I'm sure his back legs were cut off for the same reason that Harryhausen cut out 2 tentacles from his It Came From Beneath the Sea octopus.
Or why Walt Disney cut off a finger of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, just easier to do. The lizard, for some reason, is not climbing the walls like a lizard would. It's climbing up.
Well, he only has 2 legs.
Oh, there you go. He's a handy-capable lizard who has to climb up a single vine. In a kind of humorous moment, Driscoll disposes of this lizard by cutting the vine that it's on, and it goes. And I'm surprised they didn't have like the little Wile E. Coyote dust cloud cut.
Or like a little splat.
Yeah.
Well, but isn't this like right before this? Kong is reaching in to the cave.
Yeah.
And I really like this of having the stop motion animated King Kong, and then it's cut so well with the live actor.
Yeah, facing the life-size prop of the hand.
Yeah, and so he's like stabbing Kong's hand.
Yeah, you get some nice acting moments from Kong, too. Just Kong's first reaction when he notices Driscoll's down there is he's not really filled with the rage that he was when he saw them on the log. This time it almost feels like a cat playing with a mouse. It's almost like playtime where he sees him down there. He's got this mischievous smirk on his face like, I'm gonna get you, and then he gets the stab in the finger and all of a sudden... He's very sad.
Yeah, when he's sad, looking at his fingers, this is really the first example of seeing King Kong's sympathy, or our sympathy for King Kong.
Yeah.
The music matches it.
And we see that he's more than just a brainless beast.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, a T-Rex has shown up and is going towards Anne, who is...
Anne has been placed in the tree, and again,
safety.
This is another great dinosaur introduction moment where we kind of hear it coming. There's also a very nice little touch that when it steps into frame and Anne starts screaming, the Tyrannosaurus reaches up and scratches its ear, and it's just a little throwaway thing, but it's one of those little touches that O'Brien gave to these things to make them feel like they were alive. I mean...
And this is a three-fingered T-Rex.
Yeah.
So this T-Rex goes in for Anne, who is now screaming, and this distracts Kong from the whole Jack situation. So the T-Rex and Kong fight it out. And I noticed here that this T-Rex has big cat noises. Like, yeah, like a lion, a tiger.
There's some interesting parts where I believe that Murray Spivak was the guy who did the sound effects for this film, and I'm sure a lot of people have mentioned about Kong's roar, a lion's roar with a tiger's roar backwards with a reverb or something like that. There's an anecdote where he had consulted a zoologist for what kind of sounds dinosaurs would make, and the zoologist basically told him, shut the hell up, dinosaurs don't make sounds, because they're like iguanas or whatever. So he just kind of had to kind of fake it. I think the Tyrannosaurus might have actually been human vocals.
Lots of the vocals in this were him or people that he got to do vocals, and he slowed it down.
Yeah.
And there were ideas at that point that dinosaurs were closer related to reptiles than they were to...
reptiles. Reptiles?
Than they were to a bird. But now we know that dinosaurs are more closely related to birds. In fact, the word raptor means...
They're still reptiles.
Thanks, Alan Grant.
I do agree that the Tyrannosaurus does not sound as imposing as it should have. It does sound more like a cat that's really worked up when you're fighting, when you're playing with it. But we do get the fight. And this fight is...
so good.
It's a knockout fight. I mean, part of the fight really feels like the way that animals fight, and part of it feels more like a boxing match, which makes sense because Willis O'Brien, I guess, apparently was a prize fighter in his time. So he probably did... I think there are some very early stop-motion tests he did of just two clay prize fighters just fighting each other, and... There's you have that funny move that Kong does when he somersaults and throws the Tyrannosaurus over him. It's a very wrestling kind of move. And of course you have Kong's big coup de grace, which really was too gory for me as a little kid watching this movie. And even now, it still is difficult to watch as Kong defeating the Tyrannosaurus by breaking its head open.
Yeah.
They draw it out for everything it's worth. It is extremely gory for a horror movie of this time period. In fact, I mean, there's no way they would have gotten...
blood just comes out of its head.
Well, he basically...
The cracking sounds.
He, pulls his jaws apart and then breaks his snout and
puts all of his body weight on it. It's very impressively done.
But besides Willis O'Brien being a boxer, the directors also used to be wrestlers. They had a sort of a wrestling career, and they apparently sort of choreographed the fight with Willis O'Brien based off of their wrestling and boxing career.
Interesting.
During this fight, Anne's tree is knocked over, and she gets trapped under this tree. Like, her leg ends up getting trapped.
She's placed down at foot level of these fighting monsters.
After this scene, as King Kong is walking off, you'll notice there's some water in the foreground. Willis O'Brien always liked to use water in his scenes, and that shot of that stream of water, that river of water, is the LA River.
So he approaches Anne and picks her up. From here,
he gently lifts the tree, and she's freaking out, although he's just happy that she's alive. Again, we get one of those smiling giant Kong puppet moments.
Dunham and Jack end up meeting up, and it's decided that Dunham...
On opposite sides of the canyon.
Yes.
Yes. By this point, Jack is trapped on his side of the canyon that heads for Kong. Denham is on the other side, and Jack doesn't want rescuing right now. He wants to send him back to arm themselves to continue the chase.
So he's going to go back and get more men and bombs. So Jack insists that he's going to go follow Kong while the trail is hot.
Inglehorn and some of the crew were left behind, incidentally, just so you don't have the plot point where why didn't the natives just lock the door behind them?
Yeah.
So there you go. So that wasn't specifically shown.
So he'll signal once he finds her.
He doesn't know how. He doesn't know how he's going to... It's just this is... How we're going to save the day, we don't know, but we're 100% committed to doing it.
Yep.
Commitment is the theme of the film. Everybody knows what they want, and they go for it.
And Denham plans to come back at dawn the next day. So Kong takes Anne to his lair, the foyer to his lair.
Yeah, there were some deleted scenes here. Apparently, there was another Triceratops encounter that was cut. There might have been a snake encounter that was cut, and there was definitely some footage of Kong climbing up the mountain that was cut, and I think that was cut because it would have left questions of how Driscoll got up there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we get to the entrance of the cave that leads to the top of Skull Mountain. He puts Anne down safely again, and he walks off screen, presumably to check his emails or whatever.
Yeah.
And our next creature enters. Now, a lot of people mistakenly think that this is a snake.
I thought it was a snake.
It is not.
Legs.
This is a prehistoric species of reptile. It's called a plesiosaur, or this one might be an elasmosaurus. These creatures lived out in the open sea. They did not have constricting abilities like a boa or a python would, which this creature definitely does. So there's a lot of liberties taken with this thing.
That's okay.
But this creature still does kick some major ass. In fact, of all of Kong's encounters, this is probably the one where he came closest to being offed by his opponent. Because this thing, the animation is very well done. This thing whips and speeds along really quickly. And there's that very tense moment where it gets its tail around Kong's throat. And a nice sound touch is that Kong's roars are cut off by that. You really get the feeling that his neck is being crushed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and meanwhile, this is all happening. Jack sees this. He is there.
Yeah.
But he's not approaching.
No.
He's just seeing it from a little
He's a tough guy, but he's a little out of his league in this kind of moment.
He knows his place.
Well, he's waiting for the right moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after defeating this creature, Kong takes Anne to the best view on the island.
Yeah.
And
it's very impressive.
It is. Yeah. And he sets her down, and then he roars. He lets out the classic beating of his chest roar, which causes Anne to faint.
Yeah, it's his way of saying, I've had 2 really bad fights today. I'm done. I just want to sit here with my new girl, and I'm not in the mood for more fighting, which, of course, he's in for a surprise.
He's picked up Anne, and he removes a little bit of her clothing.
This is a scene that for the longest time was not available. This was cut by the censors, and the fact that it was actually restored is really amazing, because a lot of times in these classic films, when something was cut, it was gone forever. So this was something that was unavailable for the longest time.
Well, I think the reason that they were able to find it was because it wasn't cut in the initial run. It was cut in a re-release in 1938.
Oh.
So the initial run had it, and then it was cut along with scenes of Kong eating people and stepping on people, dropping people, the violent stuff, and then it was put back in the 70s, I think.
Okay. So she wakes up, and he, at that moment, is having just a real good time and is poking at her.
He's poking at her. He enjoys the smell of her, too, which is a moment that a lot of people read way too much into, is the fact that he pokes her and sniffs his fingers afterwards.
Yeah. I just like seeing his nose twitch.
It's a nice touch, too. The music is appropriately very whimsical for this moment, too. This is just a big animal enjoying his new toy.
Yeah.
And this scene was conceived by Willis O'Brien, the animator of Kong and the Monsters. You know, he had assistant animators that would do different scenes and stuff, but this scene he chose to do himself because he was more into doing the subtle scenes that required acting.
Yeah. And this is also another shot that just shows how great the matting in this
done
movie
so
is.
This is the shot I was
Wow.
talking about. It mixes every single type of animation. And the whole sequence here, even later when you get the long shots on top of Skull Mountain and a friend shows up, you have those great shots that show Ann Darrow as a wooden figure, and then she goes behind a rock, and then it's the real Fay Wray, without a cut.
They're just swapped in and out just by placement and composition.
Yeah, it's great.
It's almost like a magician's trick where, just placed in just the right moment, you can swap out for the double. And at this moment too, this is really well done because you have Fay Wray in this giant paw, but the setup for the paw is blocked off by the stop motion animated Kong that's placed just in the foreground.
Yeah.
Obviously with one of his arms obscured, so you really believe that he's holding her up.
So Jack makes a noise in the cave area, and this distracts Kong.
Bumps into a boulder.
Yeah.
He accidentally rolls
And
down a
he
boulder.
goes to investigate what that noise is, which you should never do in a movie. You
I
never
might as well just to go outside and investigate a strange noise or something.
So, meanwhile, a pterodactyl shows up to take Anne.
Anne has crawled to the edge of the cliff for whatever reason, presumably because Kong went in one direction, so she's going to go in the other. A pteranodon shows up, and this pteranodon is, again, like the Stegosaurus, there are liberties taken with this animal's size. This pteranodon is almost like the size of a small airplane. When an actual pteranodon, I think, was like a 20-foot wingspan, which is a big animal, a big flying animal, but not big enough to carry a human being away.
That's the thing. It has to be big enough to carry her away.
Yeah.
Which this is, besides the Kong head, hand, and foot, this is the only other life-size creation they made.
Yeah,
Really?
This is the only other non-Kong life-size creation, too, and it's very fleeting, the Pteranodon's hands holding her. Now, this moment is, without doubt, the most difficult time the animators had on the entire movie, because stop motion is extremely difficult. I don't know if you guys know, but when you move the puppet along, you can only move it very small at a time. The skeleton of it needs to be kept in very good condition at all times, because you don't want it accidentally jiggling or losing movements. The puppet's feet need to be bolted down by something that's obstructing the view of the feet. The Pteranodon being held up by wires must have taken forever, and I think this one very quick little sequence did take them weeks or maybe even months to animate.
It took 7 weeks to film this scene.
Good God.
And yes, it was the most difficult scene for them to do.
And it is difficult to spot the wires in this part because, so much work had to be taken into making this thing, interact with Kong and try to get Anne away too. And again, there's some nice acting here. This thing really does behave the way that a bird would. If you manage to grab a hold by a bird that just wants to get the hell out of there, they are very frantic. They go right for the eyes. And even though Pteranodon's not a bird, a lot of homework was done to make this thing act like a living animal. So the Pteranodon is quickly defeated, but again, 7 weeks of animation still gave you enough for that moment. And that moment is also important too, because that's what we were saying earlier about Driscoll waiting for just the right moment.
Yep.
His moment has come. Kong is too busy with the Pteranodon to notice that Driscoll has finally managed to get his way up there, and they've also finally managed to find a way to get away from Kong.
And so they start climbing down this cliff on a little rope. And I love this. Kong pulls the rope back up.
Yeah, and they make that big jump.
Yep, and they jump right into the water below. So they fall in there. He gets really angry, and so he takes off, presumably.
Presumably back the way he came. He's not going to go cliff diving himself.
Exactly.
We don't know how deep that water is.
So they run off towards the village.
Yeah. We could presume that they made their way back the way they came from not going the way they came from, but probably by going down the river. Let's assume that the river didn't have any giant prehistoric creatures in it.
That's exactly what he says.
As they're making their way back to the gate, they're spotted by one of the crewmen who is a lookout.
And then you get one of my favorite shots of the movie, which is them running towards the camera.
Yeah, and poor Fay Wray getting hit in the face again and again and again with this foliage. And there are some still shots that you can see in some books, and she looks exhausted. She looks battered.
So they get to the gate, and everyone comes around them. She is just weak, and Dunham at this point.
This moment is the closest Dunham comes to really being almost irredeemable.
Yes.
Because we've talked before about how he's committed to his goal. If he puts people in danger, so be it. But this part here, where they mention the fact that how are they going to reach Kong, and Denham mentions that Kong will come to them because we've got something that he wants, and he fixes this glare on Anne that there's no way to look at it other than just, what? Wow, you are a bastard.
Yeah, 100%.
And I almost wish that moment wasn't included, and Denham would have to wait for another movie to be redeemed for that kind of behavior, But thankfully, the action picks up again before you have too long to linger on, wow, he's really willing to sacrifice Anne and everyone else for this movie. But thankfully, Kong comes.
So he wants to use her as bait. He has bombs. He says that he wants to take him with him. So Kong appears, and the islanders are alerted, and they'd been hiding previous to this because they were shot at, and now they've come out. And so everyone is trying to hold this gate back. And so it's hundreds of people, tens of people.
At this point, it's not even which side is against which side. They both know that they're screwed if Kong shows up. So everybody puts their differences aside and is willing to just get the door shut, and we'll deal with the rest of the problems later. Unfortunately, it's way too late, and Kong is way too committed to his goal, and he's not going to let anything stop him, including this door that presumably has been holding him back for generations.
So he proceeds to then destroy the village.
When he breaks through, it's such a great shot. It's a wide shot. The door opens, and then you have all the people running towards the camera, and you see their silhouette. So good.
So Kong destroying homes, destroying any sort of anything in front of him.
Destroying the guards with the spears.
Yeah, he's really angry here. It really does a lot of destruction.
Yeah, he's been through a lot, and he wants back what he really, really wants.
Yeah.
And no itty-bitty little people are going to stop him. There is an unintentionally funny moment where a villager knocks over a chicken coop that takes his wig with him.
Yeah.
There's another unintentionally funny moment, or maybe this was intentionally, where a toddler Don King is there, sitting on the ground. We know it's him by the hair. We know there was going to be a spin-off sequel called Don King Kong. No. And the little kid, to his credit, the little kid looks genuinely unhappy. He's crying. The mom sees him and screams, and she rushes out. It's just perfect timing of the mom getting out there just in time to save this kid from getting stepped on.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just like earlier when the kid was saved from being stepped on by the chief.
Yeah.
Yep.
Only in this case, this is much worse.
This would throwing villagers onto the ground and squishing them into the mud.
Which always to me looked like Kong was just telling them, eat your oatmeal. Eat it.
So that mud reminded me almost of, like, in the 70s, I think one of the biggest threats to anyone's existence, aside from stairs, was quicksand, right?
Oh, my playground was a nightmare.
It did look like quicksand.
Oh, little Tommy and Susie, man, we never saw them again after they went in that sandbox.
Not that way, quicksand, quicksand.
It's very muddy, but that way you get to squish the stuntman into the ground without really hurting him. Because I don't know how much this prop foot would have weighed, but I wouldn't imagine it would have been pleasant getting stuck under that thing if it did happen to fall. So,
well, speaking of that, I don't even know if that guy was a stuntman. He may have just been an actor, but they brought him on to do this scene, and the giant foot was giant, and it scared him more than you could imagine. And right after that scene was done, he got up and ran away and never came back.
I don't blame him. I
don't either. Like, that's fine.
Well, I hope craft services at least gave him something for his troubles.
Kong is putting people in his mouth, breaking their bones, eating some people, spitting them out, throwing them onto the ground, pushing people off of things, breaking houses. He's going hammer on this town.
Cynthia, you should have said he's going ape.
I'm not on it. I'm not on it. And it's so frustrating because they're right there. They're like on a little silver platter, and I'm like, hammer. Not ape.
So Kong reaches the beach, and he's just plowed through a village, and a village is with the people, and there's no signs of stopping this guy until Denham whips out our old Deus Ex Machina in gas bomb form.
Yes.
And it's a really nice explosion, too. And Kong's acting after breathing in this gas is a nice touch where...
It's so good.
Yeah, he's definitely astounded by something that he can't see and can't touch has basically just walloped him good, and he's the confusion and the fear in his eyes is a nice touch. And then down he goes.
When he talks about how taking him in and they're like, well, how are you going to control him? And he's like, we will have the best chains, but we will also basically tame him, that they're going to show him things to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to break Kong.
It's again, it's probably more about him not thinking about how he's going to do it as the fact that he's going to do it. And even though I don't hold it past Denham at this point to not be sympathetic or humane towards Kong, it still is mostly just about he's just so frantically excited about the possibilities this giant ape is going to have for him, and his enthusiasm is in this scene, even though he's just going to get them into more trouble. The fact that Robert Armstrong delivers this dialogue with so much gusto and so much pure joy.
He does, yeah.
Why, in a few months it'll be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the eighth wonder of the world!
So after he reveals his plans and he's just going to make some money.
We just cut right to what he promised, Kong's name. It'll be up in lights on Broadway.
Yep, and it's opening night of King Kong, the eighth wonder of the world. You see massive crowds going into this theater, and some people assume it's a movie.
And people are going, keep in mind, they say the tickets cost $20.
Yep.
And in 1933...
That's a lot.
That was a lot of money to go see whatever Denham had planned, which goes to show you, just how good Denham was at playing the P.T. Barnum role of getting people to waste money on something they didn't even know.
Someone online did the conversion of what that would be in today's standards, and I can't remember exactly, but I think it was like around $5,000.
Lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of money.
So some people assume it's a movie. There's a little scene where there's a woman who's like, I can't sit this close to the screen, and they're like, it's not a moving picture.
Look at this woman's expression as soon as she's finishing speaking and as soon as the usher starts talking. She's got this big phony smile on her face saying, Denham makes us movies about those darling monkeys and tigers and things. And as soon as the usher starts talking, her entire face just drops with this big frown.
Are you saying she's a bad actress?
No, I'm saying that she's a bad person.
Okay.
I agreed.
And speaking of bad people, we have our other encounters with gorillas with that little throwaway line where two big heavy guys are just shoving their way through, which nobody does in New York at all. I hear it's a kind of a gorilla.
Boy, have we got enough of them in New York.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. But yeah, it's just people theorizing. So Anne and Jack are backstage.
I always wondered, what is this show really going to be? He says he's going to tell the story of how he found Kong, and Kong is revealed. Are people just supposed to sit there for 3 hours looking at him, and that's that?
And that's the thing. I mean, if you put too much logic into it, you can wonder, what happens if Kong suddenly goes to the bathroom up on stage? But again, that's when it comes to parodies. The Simpsons addressed this exactly when they did their parody of King Kong, where they just said, the ape is going to stand around for a few hours or so.
What kind of show you got for us, Mr. Burns?
Well, the ape's going to stand around for 3 hours or so.
So Anne comments that she doesn't want to look at him. It just brings up bad memories and reminds her of just that horrible time on the island. Kong is currently tied up, and there's a bunch of journalists that are backstage. Denham is talking to them, and he ends up pitching to them that their story should come from Beauty and the Beast story.
Play up that angle.
So he wants them to use that, but he tells them that he wants them to go out there and they'll take all the pictures in front of the audience and sends them out of their way.
Give him credit, he's not a glory hog here. He also knows that the story of Anne and Jack is also that the newspapers will eat it up, and so will the audience. So maybe it is done for a bit more for showmanship purposes than it is just thinking about goodwill for all. But again, it's just something for people to determine by themselves.
And he comments also, once they leave, he's talking to them, and he comments that they made $10,000 just from ticket sales alone.
Yeah.
So finally he comes out and talks to the crowd, and Kong is revealed to the crowd, to an absolutely hushed, silent, shocked crowd.
Yeah.
And he is chained up on this little platform.
Yeah. Look at Kong.
So Jack and Anne are revealed to be engaged, and Denham wants the photographers to take pictures of them in front of Kong, as well as taking pictures of Kong. And the flash, as soon as they start taking pictures, it's just this real obnoxious flash, and it's agitating Kong. And then he puts Jack and Anne in front of him, more pictures. It tells him, put your arm around Anne, and that pisses Kong off. That's what they think.
Yeah, the flashbulbs too. Also, Kong by that point, I don't remember if he was shot at in the village. I don't think so. But this is still something he's never encountered before in a place he's never been to before. So Kong is obviously pretty terrified too, and Kong reacts to terror by getting violent.
Yep.
Well, also, cameras in 1933. There are many explosions going off, and this was in a giant explosion.
Yeah. And give Denham credit here too. He at least tries to stop them when he tells them, "Hold on." He thinks you're frightening the girl, and it's these reporters who basically tell him, "Who cares?"
All let him roar. It's a swell picture.
He immediately breaks free of his chains and breaks out of the theater.
Not quite immediately. That build up to it too, where he's just thrashing around, and you cut to the audience wondering. There is some tension held there too, where you wonder, is he going to get away from this? And right when he breaks that first chain, the music kicks in. The audience goes nuts, and the adrenaline really gets going because you know this is not going to be good.
I really like the scene of him crashing through the doors, these giant doors from the theater out into New York.
Yeah.
So now he's loose in New York, and he follows Anne and Jack as they're running to this building.
It's hard. He doesn't know where they are just yet because he's looking around for them, which leads to a surprisingly cruel moment from Kong, although you can't say it was done with actual cruel intentions, where Kong climbs a building, finds a woman that he initially thinks is Anne, and then when he realizes it's not her, he's like, I don't have any use for this little thing, and drops her to the street.
And this scene was cut for a long time and missing for a long time.
Oh, really?
And this scene, I think, is the scariest point of the movie.
It is.
It's so scary thinking you're just sleeping and this giant hand comes out and grabs you and you're hanging stories and stories over the street, and then that scream that blends into the sirens of the police cars going.
It's a surprisingly cruel moment, but it's also interesting for the contrast of Kong, where you can't just have him be 100% the sympathetic, innocent baby. You need to show that he's dangerous too, because that contrast is what makes Kong such a fascinating character.
Anne and Jack are in their apartment, which is higher up a few floors from where this has occurred, and they think that they're safe. And I love this.
How Kong finds them is just the power of cinema coincidence, because if you were being realistic, if they had just gotten on a bus and fled town, what kind of story would we have had?
Yeah, I love this.
Driscoll basically knocking himself out is
I had to ask Robert.
A forehead slapping moment where you're like,
I was like, did he just knock himself out? And Robert's like, yes.
But that happens sometimes. Like, have you ever taken a baseball bat and tried to hit a basketball and it just bounces back and hits you in the head?
No, I've never done that.
Is this based on a true story? Or
yeah.
So Anne is captured all over again. And Kong is basically he's got his prize, but now the question is, what is he going to do in this alien land where full of things that could possibly kill him?
Yep, he's running through the streets and encounters the above ground streetcar. What are they called?
Train.
Just train or subway. It's a really good moment.
It's so good. He derails this train while he ruins all of the track, gets the train and starts pounding the crap out of it as there are people on it. And I love that, again, a bunch of unassuming people just going about their business. The train operator sees it, tries to brake.
The build up to it too. Yeah, that tension where you wonder, is he going to stop the train in time before he hits Kong or before Kong takes down this rail? Yeah. It's a very tense moment too.
And I like the animation of when he's like just bashing it.
Oh,
There's like one little person that escapes in the back.
Yeah, a couple guys,
There's a nice touch where after he's done smashing the thing and he gives that expression like, bah.
Yeah.
He just waves his hand. He's like, he's thoroughly disgusted of this town by now, and that's when he starts his big climb.
Yeah.
Now, this scene was a late addition. When King Kong was finished, it came in at 13 reels, and Marion C. Cooper was superstitious, and he said, no picture of mine's going to be 13 reels. So he wanted to get it up to 14. He could have just deleted some more stuff. I mean, stuff did eventually get deleted in the 1938 version, but he just wanted to keep making more. So he wrote this scene and made this scene to bring it up to 14 reels. So it was a later edition, and you'll notice they made a mistake. They forgot to add King Kong's little bracelet in that scene.
Oh, his shackle. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because
his little bracelet.
Yeah.
It's a shackle.
Shackle.
From here, we hear a radio broadcast that Kong is headed towards the Empire State Building.
Kong is heading north. He's heading towards the Empire State Building. That is all.
And then we hear that he's climbing the Empire State Building. And Jack is with the police. And he suggests that the best way to get him, because they can't get up there, is to shoot him down with some planes or shoot at him, but these planes will be so accurate that they will not shoot her.
Yeah, you do have to like the enthusiasm they hear after, that's it, planes! We'll get planes! Oh,
I know, everyone's
like, airplane rides!
high-fiving.
Yay!
I know that for some reason that scene really annoys me, how enthusiastic they get, and then the reporters are all excited.
Maybe let's just assume that it's a ray of hope and they're willing to accept it. Although their tone is very does not match the scene, because they almost think that they're going to go ride the airplanes at Disneyland.
There's one thing we haven't thought of. What? Airplanes. If he should put a hand down and they can fly close enough to pick him off without hitting her. You're right. Planes. Call the field. Oh, boy, what a story.
So they're on...
We have the build-up to the Empire State Building, and again,
Yes.
there's the music builds up with it. Kong slowly climbs, and when he gets to the top, there's that, the music swells up entirely, and we get to... We've had a lot of wonderful moments of this film, but this is without doubt not just the most famous moment of King Kong, but one of the most famous moments in cinema of any era.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is so cemented into just the history of movies that it still hasn't been topped.
It's great. It's so great. So the planes are attacking King Kong. Kong has put Anne down. He's at the very tippy top of the Empire State Building. They're attacking him. He's trying to grab them. He's trying to take some swings at them. Yeah. I love the perspective of the plane heading... We are in the plane heading straight at
heading
King Kong.
right at Kong when he's just swinging at them wildly.
Yeah.
And he looks pretty scary there, too. Kong is really worked up at this point, and you can't blame him either.
Yeah, for sure.
And yet, for some reason, you find yourself rooting for Kong. That's the thing. When Kong gets that 1 out of 4 airplanes, it's almost like you find yourself saying, yes! And then you're like, wait a minute. Wait, I thought we were supposed to be trying to take him down.
Yeah.
But it's a really well-done moment, too.
And pretty realistic, the shot of it crashing off the side of the Empire State
Building.
Building.
Yeah, it could have just gone straight down, but they added that touch where it hits the side of the building, too, and you have the other planes circling around in the background.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good stuff going on in that shot.
I like all of it. I like the wide shot, watching him climb up, and his little silhouette. I think it's so good.
As the battle goes on, there's that slow sinking feeling where as Kong realizes he's being hurt, and it's paced out perfectly, where it's not just bang bang bang, that's the end of Kong. It's just first he's almost kind of wondering how he's getting hurt by all this stuff too. And as the scene goes on, where he really starts taking the damage, the music hits that perfect note where he finally has lost too much blood and he kind of slides down a little bit, loses his footing. Showing what Kong is going through, I think, is enough to make us feel sorry for him, because there is that one heartbreaking close-up where Kong is realizing that he's done for, and he just this totally sad look on his face. It's not even so much that the pain he's going through, it really is just so much fear and confusion and sadness as he looks up. And when he looks at Anne one last time, and yes, she does struggle to get away, when he's looking at her, not even thinking about the fact that he's going to get killed at this point, but it's just looking down at her one last time and stroking her. He gets the final shots to the throat, and even then, his last moment is just to look at Anne again, and then he goes.
Yeah. And Darrow in this movie, all the other depictions of her after this, she's a lot more sympathetic towards him.
Oh, she's very much so. She loves King Kong and the other ones. In this one, she the whole time is scared of him and wants to get away.
I might as well talk about this now. This is, in storytelling, this is the difference between showing and telling.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why this Kong works so well is, even though, yes, none of the characters in this movie care about Kong's well-being. They don't care if he lives or dies. They don't care if he's happy. But that does not mean that the movie was unsympathetic to Kong.
Yeah.
Because we show our sympathy for Kong just by having Kong be himself, by showing the life and the acting we put into him. We don't need Jessica Lange or Naomi Watts screaming, "No, don't hurt Kong! Don't hurt him! You're bad!" I hit some high notes there.
Yeah, that was...
Okay, wow. I won't do that again. But that's the movie telling you to be sorry for Kong, and this movie just needs to show it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Kong's pain and his death so heartbreaking, is even though nobody in the movie feels sorry for him, it is Cooper and the creators had 100% faith in the fact that the audience would feel sorry for him.
So he's fatally wounded, falls off of the building.
When he falls off the building, what we get is a long shot showing the little puppet, whatever that thing was, falling off the side.
Oh, yeah, well, we were joking around earlier, yes. The Kong falling down the building does look a little silly. It looks like Timmy threw his teddy bear off of the bunk beds, and it just falls down to the ground.
I'm always curious, though, as to how exactly they did that and how they did the long shot showing him climb the building, because if you look at the long shot of him climbing the building, it doesn't look like stop motion animation.
It doesn't. It almost looks like a marionette. That's the thing. This would be something that another King Kong movie called King Kong Escapes would do, where whenever Kong was on the towers in that film, that was accomplished, unless we're in close-ups, by long distances. This was done by an actual marionette on a string and all that.
The scene of him falling off, there was originally a shot showing him from above, I guess, where you see him falling in the street below.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting shot that was cut because of technical reasons.
Yeah, Kong was transparent. You know, they cut out what wasn't working, and they whatever was working fantastically.
At the base of the Empire State Building, there's a huge gathering of people around Kong's body. Yeah. Denham is trying to make his way through the crowd, and someone comments that he's the one that brought...
Well, that's the man who captured the monster. He did! And all the backgrounds, for some reason, sound like the Munchkins.
Well, that's the man that captured the monster.
So the lieutenant comments that the airplanes were the ones that brought him down, that killed him.
Well, Denham, the airplanes got him. Oh, no. It wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty killed the beast.
And that is one of the most misquoted quotes in film history, because you won't believe how many times you read in books that the line is, "'Twas beauty killed the beast."
You mean it's not played again, Sam?
But yeah, that is King Kong.
A terrific picture. So that was King Kong. It's a great movie, one of my favorite. I'd say it's one of my favorite movies, but as I said before, it's not a movie that I revisit that often. But thinking back on it, and every time I do see it, I really do love it. It's just, maybe because it's too sad, I don't know. It's not like I put it on and just play it in the background a lot.
Yeah.
How did you like it, Anthea?
I really enjoyed it.
Is it your favorite King Kong that you've seen?
Yes. There's some aspects that I really enjoy from the other ones. But I think I like this original. I like that I was able to tell where things came from in the rehashing of this story. And I really like hearing about things that were cut and whatnot. So I would have to say that of all the King Kongs, this would be my favorite.
Wonderful.
I'm going to say, though, the 70s one is right next to that.
And Aidan, I assume this is your favorite King Kong?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, should we talk a little bit about the history of Kong and how it came to be? Do you guys know what some of the early titles of King Kong was?
The Beast.
The Beast, that was one.
Kong.
Kong, yes. We have the Eighth Wonder. The Ape, King Ape. For the longest time, it was just called Kong, and then executive producer David O. Selznick, who was an executive at RKO, before he left the studio, one of his last things that he did was call it King Kong.
Yeah.
And that's what lasted.
It's great. It's a real solid name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack were the directors of the movie, and they were both very influential to the Carl Denham character, meaning that the Denham character was based on them, more so Marion C. Cooper. They both filmed wild animals like Denham did.
Yeah, their earlier films had been films like Grass, Chang, I'm just remembering things up there, but they were exactly the kind of jungle pictures that Denham would have made famous. You know, they keep it distant, difficult, and dangerous, I think was their motto, and they were very much about, you know, if we're going to make a jungle picture, we're going right there in that damn jungle. If we're going to get a shot of a furious tiger down in a pit, we're actually going to lead a tiger tiger into a pit and film its reaction. And
their personalities were thrown into these characters, and Jack Driscoll was very much the Ernest B. Schoedsack character. Eventually, they brought on a writer named Ruth Rose.
She was the second writer. The initial treatment was written by a very famous mystery writer named Edgar Wallace. And
now, are you sure about this? Because I have read other things.
Oh, go ahead.
Edgar Wallace, he was credited as being a writer, but before he had a chance to work on it, he had died. Marion C. Cooper hired him, and, they had discussions about exactly what they're going to be doing. Maybe he did write a treatment, I don't know. But they both got pneumonia. Marion C. Cooper went to the hospital, and he told Edgar Wallace that you should go to the hospital, and he didn't, and he had complications with diabetes and ended up dying.
Boy.
And Marion C. Cooper said he ended up not writing any of the movie, but he still gave him the credit.
Oh.
But Ruth Rose, I was going to say, just as a connection to these characters, she was an out-of-work actress through much of her early years, and she found love on a ship just like that called the Arcturus. And Marion C. Cooper told her to use them as characters for the movie, meaning Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack.
And by extension herself, too.
And by extension herself.
Because we have an out-of-work actress as our heroine in the movie.
Exactly, and she used her time on that ship to really build up that stuff, and she knew the lingo and turned it into what it is. I want to talk a little bit about Cooper and Schoedsack. They were both risk takers, as we know, like how Carl Denham was. The studio didn't really completely trust them in exactly what they were doing with the movies they were making, just like Carl Denham, but they made their movies. Schoedsack, he was 6'6", and he was a cameraman during World War I, and he shot lots of war footage and all that. Both Schoedsack and Cooper, they initially met during World War I in Vienna, and Marion C. Cooper, he was a prisoner in a Russian prison during World War I when it was under attack, and he escaped. And then when he was making his way back to the United States, he met up with Schoedsack again, just randomly, and he's like, I remember you from a long time ago when we talked, and he told him that he wanted to make an epic movie about a little known part of the world. So that's kind of where their friendship started, where their ideas of making these type of movies came to be. So the first film they did was Grass, as you had mentioned. And then, after these first few films, Marion C. Cooper conceived of the idea of King Kong. So Marion C. Cooper, when he was asked why he dreamed up of King Kong, he said, to thrill myself, to please the public too, of course, but I also wanted to please myself. I want to produce something that I could view with pride and say, there is the ultimate adventure.
Very nice.
And that is why he came up with King Kong.
He lived and breathed adventure. It was instilled in him very early on when he was a kid. I think that was actually one of the inspirations for Kong was some of these first discoveries of Europeans discovering gorillas, and a lot of these stories that were sent back, whether they were true or whether they weren't, of these horrifying encounters in the jungle or whatnot, I'm sure really made an impact on his young brain.
So David O. Selznick, he brought on Marion C. Cooper at RKO to be his assistant. Because of the Depression and the struggles that RKO was having, lots of things were being canceled, including a big epic called Creation, which we mentioned earlier. What do you know about Creation?
Creation basically would have been a Lost World film, only with sailors discovering an island with prehistoric creatures on it. This was actually some of the earliest instances of the Arsinotherium chasing the sailors onto a log. There is one surviving test shot, which you can see on the Kong DVD, of a sailor shooting a baby Triceratops and getting chased down by the mom. Now, unfortunately, the clip ends before the mom catches the bastard. It was a very well done animated baby Triceratops, too. It was just O'Brien's magic of making you believe in these creatures. Now, Creation, I think, was shelved partly because of the costs and partly because the story just didn't grab people. I don't think it didn't have the Kong element.
After Creation was canceled, they still looked at the footage. Cooper saw the footage. Cooper worked on it, right? Or did he not?
I forget at the moment.
It may have just been Willis O'Brien that worked on it, but at some point Marion C. Cooper saw his work on it and really liked it and decided they would shoot a test for Kong.
And this was important going the stop motion angle. Cooper had considered, for the idea of a gorilla fighting reptiles, to actually take live gorillas, take them over to the Komodo Islands, and put them in the same shot as Komodo dragons. This would have been horrible because gorillas are strong but not necessarily fighters, whereas a Komodo dragon is a 10-foot-long venomous killing machine, and I doubt the gorillas would have been happy. It would have been terrible, and thank goodness that the Willis O'Brien angle came along. I'm sure the success of The Lost World was also a big factor in going that route too. Because
I'm sure. So they did this test footage, and it didn't have a name at this point. It was just called Production 601. So they did a test, and he hired Willis O'Brien and Marcel Delgado to create King Kong. Marcel Delgado created the armatures and the whole look, the skeleton of King Kong.
Yeah, Marcel Delgado was the sculptor on The Lost World too. I believe he was a young Mexican artist who O'Brien was just totally won over by his talent and convinced him to go for a career in the movies. And even after Delgado said he wasn't really interested, O'Brien still brought him on the set of The Lost World one day, just said, "Hey, this is your new office. You interested?" And he's like, "Sure." And they went to work together.
So Marion C. Cooper, he asked Marcel Delgado if he could create a dinosaur-sized ape. And O'Brien told Delgado, don't make him look too ape-like. Make him more on the human side, because he wanted him to show those emotions and get us to relate to him. Then Marion C. Cooper would see it and say he wants him more ferocious, wants to look more like an ape. So they had this big fight exactly how he would look, and I think Willis O'Brien kind of won with getting him to be to have more human characteristics than just a gorilla running around. So they used the stop-motion technique to create King Kong, which means, filming a frame at a time, and it took a long time to film this stuff. 25 feet of finished film was a good day's work, and that equals around 20 seconds of the movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one day for 20 seconds. King Kong himself, he was an 18-inch model made from a metal skeleton with a mixture of rubber and foam over the metal structure, and then rabbit fur for his hair.
Really?
If you watch the movie, you could tell at least 2 models were used. I think it was more than that, actually. But 2 different models were used. I know 2 still exist today. One in the collection of Bob Burns. I think there's one in the collection of Peter Jackson.
Yeah, there's 2 main models, and the difference that tell them apart is just the length of the face, where it's more obvious between you look at Kong for most of his Skull Island scenes versus Kong in New York City, and the difference between the 2 of them.
You can really tell in stills, too.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you noticed throughout the movie, King Kong's fur was moving. Why was it moving?
Well, I would assume it's like wind and changes, but I guess it's probably from him being handled.
Yes, it's from it being handled.
The
it's
stop-motion animators.
Yeah, it's Willis O'Brien's fingerprints and everyone, and it was a mistake. They didn't want that to happen, and in fact, I think it was Marcel Delgado who maybe said he wasn't crazy about using rabbit fur because of that very issue. But an executive saw it and gave it a compliment saying, look,
he's bristling, he's really getting worked up.
Yeah.
And it works too. I mean, the hair moves around naturally, so something like that, like what Cynthia's saying, where you could just say maybe just the wind was hitting him a certain way, or maybe he was bristling like a cat or a dog would.
I mean, look at Pixar. Pixar's been working on fur technology since, they started.
We talked a little earlier about the roars of the creatures. King Kong, when it was not a human voice being slowed down, it was also a lion's roar and a tiger's roar that was run backwards and slowed down. The T-Rex's hissing was a puma scream and high compression air, apparently. The Brontosaurus sounds were people grunting into a double-chambered gourd. Willis O'Brien, he did not like the giant head of King Kong. He thought that the expressions were very limited. As I told you before, 3 men were inside doing the expressions, the brow, the smile, the eyes moving. So when they did the stop motion for King Kong, they used miniature sets on tables. And they would create the foliage and plants and all that, and sometimes they would use real plants. Sometimes they would have a scene to animate that would take, for instance, the Pteranodon scene took 7 weeks. So it would be weeks they'd be animating, and they'd have hot lights. And sometimes flowers would wilt or bloom, and it would be a time-lapse photography, so you would see it all of a sudden blooming in the corner. And then if that happened, they would have to start over from scratch.
Oh, Oh, no.
So that was a tough thing to deal with. To animate these creatures, they would have to drill holes in the table on the set, and they would kind of have pegs in their feet that would stabilize them so they wouldn't rock back and forth, and you would always know where they were. There's one shot that I love in the King Kong versus T-Rex scene where they do a somersault, and if you play it frame by frame, you could see the metal pieces holding them up, because obviously they can't stand in midair, you know? So it's neat that you could see that technique. And there's several still photos where you could see the floor has all these holes in it because of the different places they would be walking. They cover it up in the movie so you don't see it. In promotional materials, do you know, Inthea, how tall they said King Kong was?
3 stories.
They said he was 50 feet in promotional materials. The truth of the matter is he was always between 18 feet and 25 feet.
Kong's
24 feet.
Kong's size is very hard to determine in the film, and I think that was something Cooper lamented about. By the time they had gotten Kong to New York, he had complained that the monster wasn't big enough.
Correct.
I'm not entirely sure if there is a growth in his size between Skull Mountain and when he gets to New York or not, but it's still very hard to pin down. Is he 20 feet tall, 30, 40, 50?
I always hear that, and I've never had a problem with his height. He always seems the same height to me.
Yeah,
but they say like it was an 18-inch model, and then eventually it was scaled up to a 24-inch model that they used.
Again, these are one of those things that I don't think stops the movie in any way whatsoever, and you don't even think about it unless if somebody pointed it out to you. So, forget I said this.
You know, we know that they use stop motion effects to create King Kong, but even up until the, 70s, obviously before the internet, way later than the movie, there were still rumors on how they created him. There were publications that it was a real gorilla.
Newspapers and magazines for even decades afterwards were reporting totally wrong stuff, saying it was a giant robot, it was a puppet, it was a guy in a suit. Ape actor Charles Gamora, who did not play Kong, and he never claimed to play Kong, when he died, the local newspaper said, King Kong actor dies, the man who brought King Kong to life. And it's like, no, he wasn't. There were no men in Kong suits for this movie.
But the animators, before they animated the dinosaurs, they studied slow motion footage of elephants to get the walking down. Human figures, because sometimes the humans were animated, they were made of wood and they were 6 inches tall.
Okay.
And then did you know that all the characters, the dinosaurs and the humans, the birds, they all had wooden stand-ins. Someone carved figures of them in the same shape, and they would use that as they were building a scene and setting it up, because the heat from the lamps would start to affect the skins of the dinosaurs and all that.
Stop motion puppets are constantly falling apart, and that's the thing, is they would have, because you have to make sure that the joints are perfectly tightened, not tight enough to break the thing, but also tight enough that it could hold its pose from shot to shot, and of course the heat of the lamps obviously is enough to destroy most anything. And you got to make sure that the lamps stay at the same consistency, because if there's suddenly a change in brightness, obviously that makes an effect.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of that, the actors, they would do their scenes for a few weeks, and then they would take a few months off, and the animation would go, and then they would come back. The animation would have to catch up to what they're filming. Because they tried at one point to do a little bit of animation, and then they do some more scenes, and then they just put it on hold, and then they'll go back to the animation eventually and not do it in sequential order. There were problems because, well, one, if someone walks by and it moves a fraction of an inch, you're going to see it. Besides that, even if it didn't move at all, the lights are now a month older and won't be as bright as they were a month earlier because they've been used, So all these little things to think about as they're animating. Do you know the story about the pliers that were left?
Go for it.
Do you know this stuff?
I think I heard that one.
There's something, I don't know if this is true, but apparently one of the animators was animating a scene, and there were some pliers that was left on the table that was in the shot. And he was horrified because it was days and days of work he would have to redo to get rid of it. So instead, he decided to animate the pliers sliding off the screen. And if someone saw it, he would just say it was like a little snake or something.
It's a crocodile.
Yeah. But I've never seen pliers in the movie. So let's quickly do a cast rundown. So first we have Fay Wray, the star of the picture. Mm-hmm. She's the first real scream queen, the best scream ever done in film history. She was not blonde. She wore a wig throughout the whole movie.
Oh, it's a great wig.
It was her idea, I believe, to wear that wig. When King Kong was being described to her, Marion C. Cooper told her that she'll have the tallest, darkest leading man in Hollywood. And she thought she was going to be working with Cary Grant. Robert Armstrong plays Carl Denham. Again, he's based on Marion C. Cooper mostly.
You can see Fay Wray and Robert Armstrong together in The Most Dangerous Game.
Then we have Bruce Cabot as Jack Driscoll, who is mostly influenced by the life of Ernest B. Schoedsack. Frank Riker as Captain Engelhorn.
Yeah, he pops up in a few horror movies I'm sure you guys will go over. The Invisible Ray. I think he's in Dr. Cyclops.
Yeah, he's a very good actor. He's probably the best actor of the bunch.
Yeah, according to you, one of these gas bombs of yours is enough to knock out an elephant. Just like the way he winds up that line and throws it.
And then the last one that I want to mention in terms of, for our purposes of a horror podcast, is Noble Johnson, since he also appears in The Mummy and Murders in the Rue Morgue and all that.
And The Most Dangerous Game again. Yeah.
So there's a little story. In the scene where Anne disappears and everyone's looking for her, at one point, Bruce Cabot disappeared while they were filming that, and everyone wanted to know where he was. He ended up emerging from one of the rooms, and he was noticeably drunk. Schoedsack reprimanded him, but Bruce Cabot, instead of listening to him, just broke into dance and started dancing around and mocking him. And Schoedsack was so angry, he slapped him in the face. And Schoedsack felt so guilty about that, and he talked about that for the rest of his life.
And of course,
oh my gosh!
And of course, as for Kong himself getting drunk, we would end up seeing that in another movie. But that's a story for another day in the faraway land of Japan.
The actual wall that kept King Kong out, that was built in Culver City at the studio, and it was 75 feet high. And it was made for a previous film. I don't remember what it was made for. But I told you that it has a connection to Gone with the Wind. And that is during the finale of Gone with the Wind, when everything is on fire, the wall is one of the things they set on fire.
Really?
And something else to add to that, that's not the only big Kong prop that ended up being set ablaze. Was
what else?
The big Kong head itself.
Was it?
They discovered, much later after it was filmed, it was discovered somewhere on the lot. By that point, it had become infested with fleas, where I guess just all these vermin are just covered this Kong thing, and they had to get rid of it because obviously nobody wants a 20-foot tall flea city there, so they just took it out, doused it with gasoline, set it on fire, and that was the end of that.
Oh god.
And all that was used for Gone with the Wind 2.
Electric Boogaloo. Wind Harder.
Speaking of fires, during the ceremony at night when they were offering off Ann Darrow, there's so many extras and people running around with torches, and a studio official was worried about the studio might burn down, and he made a big announcement and says, "I'll give someone $10,000 to burn the place down," because he was joking that he wanted the insurance money for the studio.
Ooh.
The first time we see King Kong, when he approaches Ann Darrow, he goes through the trees and knocks them all down. The directors didn't like the way it looked. There was something they didn't like, and they asked it to be reanimated. They ended up animating that sequence 16 times until they got it right.
Holy crap.
And the directors ended up liking the original one best and went with the original.
Jeez Louise, I'd be so mad. I would have just sent them the exact same footage 15 times.
There was not a deleted sequence, but there was an idea that they had initially that they even did some concept art for, where instead of King Kong being on display inside of an auditorium in a theater, he would be in the middle of Yankee Stadium and then break out of his chains and run through.
There is some more Byron Crab concept art of this, which shows that he was kind of chained to the ground, which I guess makes sense, but it wouldn't have been as memorable of a visual as that big platform.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And also, with the stadium would be so much bigger than him himself.
Yeah, it would dwarf him.
Agreed.
Yeah. The theater that they ended up using, the interiors at least, was the Shrine Auditorium here in Los Angeles.
Really?
Uh-huh.
The place where Kong goes to eat lunch was Musso and Frank's, but they chopped it up for time. They wouldn't give him a table, so he took the whole restaurant.
Then he went to the Brown Derby and had a Kong salad. And then he put the derby on and walked away.
He's all single.
So they were talking about shooting down King Kong in the planes, and Ernest B. Schoedsack said,
"We ought to be the ones to shoot
we
the
should
son
kill
of
the son of a bitch ourselves." Yeah. So both the directors are in the plane as shooting
is that
King
them?
Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the flight commander, the real flight commander of the planes that they hired for this sequence, he ended up dying only a few weeks later in a plane crash.
Ooh.
Yeah. The film was in production for 55 weeks.
Oh.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. That's over a year.
Yeah, and that's not counting pre-production.
Oh, holy guacamole!
And especially in the Depression, this would have been a huge gamble.
Yeah.
But it ended up saving RKO from going into bankruptcy because of how successful it was. The movie came out a year after the live actors finished filming. So by the point they filmed the movie and it came out, I think like Fay Wray had done like 4 movies by that point.
Oh, wow.
They had the premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and the King Kong head was on display, the one that they burned down. It opened.
Maybe that's probably where it got all the fleas, was just being in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It opened April 10th, 1933. It grossed $90,000 its opening weekend, and it was the biggest opening at the time. So let's see. We talked about the deleted scenes that were cut from the 1938 version that were later put back in. Those scenes were Kong eating the natives, the squashing natives with the foot, the brontosaurus eating the men, King Kong in New York eating a man. When he pulls the woman out of the room and drops her, and the scene with Anne's clothes coming off. When the film was re-released in 1952, see, I didn't know this actually. When they re-released the film in 1952, they added some close-ups of the Empire State Building, including the scene of the airplane falling off the side. That wasn't in the original version.
Oh, really? Well, the 1952 re-release is also what we were talking about in our Godzilla podcast as being one of the main things that kicked off Godzilla, which was that and Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which I'm sure the two of them did very well together.
Yeah, and the 1952 release was huge. It was like the movie had never been seen before, and people went out in droves. In fact, Time Magazine named it the movie of the year. And it was a re-release.
Wow. People like monsters.
Yeah.
Then in 1956, there was the television premiere, and it played every night for a week. In fact, it played 17 times over that week, and as time went on, the ratings got higher and higher.
That's crazy.
People loved King Kong. The same year, 1933, Son of Kong came out.
Really?
Which is a sequel to the movie starring Robert Armstrong. And it basically starts with all of New York is suing Carl Denham for all the damage. Yeah, so there was a sequel, and then they always kind of lump Mighty Joe Young into a sort of King Kong sequel.
An unofficial trilogy, yeah.
Yeah, because it was the same company and Willis O'Brien with Ray Harryhausen.
Willis O'Brien, I might as well mention now about a Kong sequel that never came to pass. Now, Kong was obviously a big moneymaker, but the trouble with Kong is that it was very expensive to bring him back. This wasn't like, Universal could keep bringing back out Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman in new films, whereas bringing Kong back would obviously be a long and expensive process unless they switched to a guy in a suit. Obie had like a lot of people in Hollywood, Obie's career declined and had some hardships, but he had always been under the impression that he had some ownership of Kong and wanted to bring Kong back, and he had developed a concept called King Kong versus Frankenstein, which would also have name changes to King Kong versus Prometheus, King Kong versus the Ginkgo, but this basically would have brought Kong back versus another giant monster, which was this sort of humanoid creature that has like a sort of an elephant-like skin texture because this monster is made out of the parts of animals in a very Frankenstein-like fashion. And it would have, you can find concept art for it online, it looks very cool. But the sad aftermath of the story is that, Obi was very trusting, and he took this concept to a producer named John Beck. When Beck goes and shops around concepts for it, not a lot of people were interested because of the cost of stop motion, and around that time, Beck somehow got in touch with Toho Studios, and Toho had been looking for a vehicle to bring back Godzilla for a while. They had some concepts that were just not working. The Bride of Godzilla was not working either. That's a crazy film, that for another day. But Toho wasn't interested so much in the Frankenstein angle, although they would do a Frankenstein movie later, but they were interested in the King Kong angle, and that's what began the production of King Kong versus Godzilla. Now, sadly, nobody bothered to tell Willis O'Brien about this, and he was just left in the dark for the longest time. And by the time King Kong vs. Godzilla had hit theaters, I believe it came out the year that O'Brien died, or it was just a very sad ending to his life, realizing that something he had put so much work and so much faith into was basically stolen from him by just a shifty producer.
So yeah, there was Mighty Joe Young, then you have so there was King Kong versus Godzilla and King Kong Escapes, and then the 76 King Kong. There was a sequel to that. There was Peter Jackson King Kong, and we have Kong Skull Island now, and he's going to fight Godzilla again soon. So Kong is just as popular as ever. What happened to RKO Studios? It eventually went into nothing, got sold. All the facilities were bought up by Desilu. And there is a great program of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz walking around the old RKO studios showing what Desilu is going to be like. And they eventually meet up with William Frawley and Vivian Vance, who play Fred and Ethel Mertz. And they go into the prop house, and there's something standing right there on a little table. And Fred picks it up and says, or William Frawley picks it up and says,
"Do you recognize this little fella?
No, who is it? One of your relatives?
This happens to be the star of one of the most famous pictures ever made, King Kong."
That's right. This is the original King Kong.
He shows him the King Kong model. Funny thing, it was actually Mighty Joe Young.
And I'm sure everybody on the internet was just all over that.
So Fay Wray, she lived to the year 2004. And people always asked her if she felt like it was a bad thing she did King Kong, because that's the only thing people ever associated with her. And she was so proud of being in King Kong and wanted to always live up to its legacy and always did every King Kong thing there was to do. And she just loved it. In fact, when she died, in the emergency room, King Kong was playing on TV. And with that, that's the story of King Kong.
I'd like to part with a quote from Marion C. Cooper, where we were talking earlier about what is the meaning of Kong and how people bring their own meanings about, is this a film about the environment? Is this a film about race relations or world relations? And Kong didn't need any of that. And Cooper responded with a very wonderful quote that I love, where he said, "King Kong was never intended to be anything but the best damn adventure picture of all time, which it is, and that's all it is." And he was absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this Kong-sized episode, because I'm sure it is long.
Yeah.
We will do Son of Kong one of these days.
Eventually. We got so many movies, but yeah.
We do have so many movies coming up. We have Ghostbusters coming up, and Werewolf of London, and Bride of Frankenstein, and It, and lots of good stuff. So keep listening. I'd like to thank Aidan for joining us again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always an early trick or treat to talk about monsters with you guys.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening too.
Yeah.
We hope you're enjoying Pods and Monsters. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at www.aidancasserly.com. I also do a very monster and horror-oriented series called Scapula, which you can find at scapulacomic.com. I did a recent issue called Scapula and the Sinister Monster Doom Legion, which I talked about during the Godzilla podcast, but this is an episode that is filled with homages to all of these classic horror movies which have meant so much to me and have helped shape the person that I am and the artist that I am, and
awesome.
Including homages to our friend King Kong himself. So.
Yes.
All right, so where can they find us, Cynthia?
We can be found at podsandmonsters.com as well as Pods and Monsters on Twitter and Facebook and on Instagram at Pods and Monsters Podcast.
Anything else you'd like to add before we leave?
We have an updated coming attractions episode list, basically. We did swap some stuff out, but we're really excited. But if you have any suggestions, please feel free to email us at podsandmonsters@gmail.com. Maybe something will get bumped up, or we'll consider something that we hadn't considered. You never know. Or you can tweet at us, or you can drop us a DM, slide into those DMs on Instagram.
That stands for direct messaging.
Thank you, sir. And also on the Book of Faces. So, yeah.
That means Facebook. So, my name is Robert.
My name is Cynthia.
My name is Aidan Casserly.
And thank you for listening to King Kong, and we hope you have a wonderful day at Skull Mountain.
To all of our ballas out there.
Bala! I forgot. It was so long ago. Bala!
Bala!
Bala! Bala!
Okay, goodbye.
Bala!
Good bala!